A voice asks whether the audience has ever heard of the legend of the princess's grave. Red lines emanate from a lit candle on a stand. The red liquid flows from the bowl into the Red Sea. The voice says that this princess was from an ancient, once great ruling dynasty. Black crows with red eyes fly over the Red Sea. A girl sits on the ground in the middle of a cemetery. The voice says that every year after July 7th, near the princess's grave, you can see the ghost of a girl in a red wedding dress wandering around. A piece of paper is torn off from the calendar from August 21, 2023, and a calendar sheet is opened from August 23rd. The girl throws a calendar sheet with the number 22 on the ground, on the bottom of which it is written that there is deception everywhere. A girl with violet eyes and appealing cheeks smiles sinisterly. The main character with brown hair tied in a ponytail and wearing a red jacket tells what they say. The princess died on this very day, but her soul never rested in peace. The main character gets up from the table and says that on July 7th of this year he, the main leader, will lead netizens to a meeting with the princess lying in a coffin. With a shining golden eye, he asks the question of whether a ghost really exists, and tells viewers to stay on his channel to find out and reminds them not to forget about likes. The main character in the video calls himself the main leader of the beggars and that they will see each other soon. A fat man with glasses holding a phone in his hands tells Mr. Fan Nin that the advertising video has been published. The man with glasses says that only a day has passed, but the number of views has already exceeded 1 million. The main character in a baseball cap sits with his arms crossed and sits on a torn chair. Fan Nin gets up from his chair and adjusts his baseball cap and says good job. Fan Nin puts his hand on the shoulder of the man with glasses and calls him the director. Van says that he did a good job and asks for help on the live broadcast. Director Van wipes away drops of sweat with a handkerchief and says that Fan Nin will help. Director Van thought that if it weren't for business problems, he wouldn't have come here. Not far from Van and Fan Nin, a film crew is doing their thing. A man with brown hair asks a man with stubble where the boss found this job. He adds that weren't they shooting short videos. A man with stubble and a cigarette in his mouth answers that he doesn't know and notes that it's creepy here. A guy in pants with suspenders runs up from behind the director and calls the director. The guy tells the director that the actress will be a little late. The director replies that he should hurry up. Director Van says that you can't miss participating in the live broadcast, and the guy tells him that this is of course true. The director shouts that according to the plan, filming begins at 23:30, and adds that it's already 7:30. There are only 4 hours left and they need to hurry. The film crew carries the items necessary for filming. Fan Nin says it's good that professionals work. He rests his chin on his finger and laughs mentally, thinking about how profitable it was to invest here. He adds that if the live broadcast is successful, he will also remain in the black. Fan Nin thinks that regardless of whether the legend is true, the atmosphere here is creepy and views will definitely increase. Fan Nin takes off his cap and says that he will take a break for 5 minutes before the broadcast and asks the director to contact him later. The director replies that there are no problems and they will prepare everything for now. The director asks what happened and says that it starts in 10 minutes, and then asks where the actress is. The silhouette of a girl heads towards the film crew. A man in pants with straps says that he called the girl an hour ago, but no one answered. The director shouts that when he returns, everyone will get it. The director puts his hand on the guy's shoulder and says that they won't waste time, and then asks him to change his clothes. The director nudges the guy with his foot and asks him something unclear, and then asks him to speed up. The director shouts at him to read the script carefully and let him just try to screw it up. The guy with a surprised expression on his face tells the director to wait. Black crows fly around a hill, and a girl stands on its top. A guy in pants with straps points his finger at the girl on the hill and says that the actress is already here. In the foreground, the director is holding a walkie-talkie, and a man with stubble is looking towards a guy in pants with straps. Black feathers fly down. Behind the girl on the hill there is a bright green glow. A guy with brown hair with a box in his hands asks a question when she came and had time to change clothes, and a man with stubble says that the dress looks even more expensive than what they prepared. The director shouts that the actress is here and commands that she gets ready. The main character stands behind the film crew with his hands in his pockets. The director says that the time has come. The main character asks if everything is ready for broadcast. The director replies that we can begin. The girl heads towards the film crew. The main character turns his baseball cap back and says that's great. Turning his baseball cap back, the main character commands to begin. The film crew has prepared the light and camera. The director raises his hand up. Fan Nin raises his palm up and greets the audience with a smile on his face. Viewers call the main character handsome. Some write that they don't believe Fan Nin's words. Fan Nin says that this is where the princess's grave is located, and if anyone in the audience was born in High City, they must have heard the legend about her. The main character points with his hand to the clothes lying on the gravestone. He adds that there have been more than 5 reports of ghosts being found here. The main character thought that his popularity was growing and maybe this time he would be able to make money. Viewers leave messages in the chat. Someone calls Fan Nin a deceiver. Someone writes about their love for him. Someone writes that he has been waiting for too long. The main character with a smile on his face says that enough talking and announces the beginning. The main character approaches clothes illuminated by a spotlight. Spectators express interest in what is happening. Some of them are scared. Fan Nin sits down near the gravestone with clothes and says that her soul lives forever, but only comes out on July 7th. She appears on this day to share her grievances. Members of the film crew go about their duties. One of the guys throws a stone into the air. A stone falls to the ground near the main character. He imitates fear. Some spectators get scared. The audience begins to write to the main character telling him to run away. Fan Nin thought everything was cool and gave a thumbs up to the guy who threw the rock. The camera films a fallen stone. Fan Nin looked at the actress and thought that he needed to approach her to achieve the climax. He thinks that it's immediately obvious that the actress is a professional, and he didn't spend the money in vain. A guy with pants with straps holding a smartphone in his hand calls the director. The director shouts that he doesn't have time. Director Van looks at his smartphone with a smile on his face and loudly says that everything is going as expected. He adds that their popularity is growing as they have received 1 million views and are already in the top 10. Van imagines him standing with a towel on the beach and rockets, gifts and a car flying around him. He thought that according to the agreement, 10% of the profits belonged to them and he was about to get rich. Van stands with a happy face and closed eyes. The guy behind the director manages to say only one word, but. The director tells the guy to leave and asks if he values his salary, and then tells him to stop interfering. The director pushes a guy with pants with straps and says on the radio that it's almost 12. He tells Fan Fin that he must approach the actress and tells the actress to follow the script. The guy with brown hair and a reflector thinks that there aren't that many of them, and there's no particular need for a walkie-talkie. A guy with brown hair looks at the actress on the hill and tells the director that the actress seems to be without an earphone. The wind begins to blow. The film crew shields itself from it. The guy with the strappy pants covers his head with his hand and thought about the ghostly energy he saw, and the rising wind. He calls the director with a frightened face. The guy points to the top of the hill and shouts that the actress has disappeared. The director hits a guy with brown hair on the head with a folded piece of paper and shouts at him that he sent her a new script yesterday, and she must be getting ready to go out. The director speaks into Fan Nin's walkie-talkie that the actress is getting ready. He commands Fan Ning to go to the slope. Fan Nin holds his head with his hand and says that he was very frightened by the gust of wind and adds that he did not believe in all sorts of gods and ghosts, but now he is ready to change his mind. Fan Nin says he still doubts whether the princess will appear. The main character climbs the stairs leading to the top of the hill. The viewers on the broadcast are scared. Some want him to be more attentive. The guy with the strappy pants tells the director to listen to him. In the foreground, the main character rises up with a slight smile. The director, with his mouth wide open, shouts at the worker and asks why he hasn't finished yet and points out that everyone is busy. The guy shows a smartphone where the actress apologized for falling asleep. The director asks the guy with a startled face, "She didn't show up." He turns back and asks who is on the slope then. The director looks towards the main character. A girl in a beautiful outfit stands on a hill. Her eye glows red. Fan Ning looks at her. Under the fabric headdress hides the fox of a beautiful girl with white hair. The main character falls to the ground and crawls away from the girl. With a frightened face, he thought that the girl was playing her role flawlessly, and if he didn't know the truth, he would have thought that she was real. The main character trembles and asks the girl who she is. The director grabs the t-shirt of a guy in pants with straps and in a trembling voice asks who it is if their actress hasn't come. The guy in the pants with straps doesn't know who it is and adds that he's already told him something. But his sentence is interrupted by the operator. The cameraman loudly calls the director, and he looks at the cameraman with a frightened look. The operator with a frightened face and a trembling voice says one word, legs. The guy with brown hair shows the tablet to the director. The director and the guy with the strappy pants look at the screen. The director, frightened, begins to hold on to the guy in pants with straps. The girl rises above the ground and soars in the air. Some viewers doubt the reality of what is happening. Some are scared, and some point out that the girl is floating. Director Van, looking at the screen with a trembling voice, says that they want to say that their group met a real ghost. He concludes that the legend is true. The girl's eyes are hidden by a headdress. The main character loudly asks whether she is a real princess. A guy with pants with straps is holding the director in his arms, and a guy with brown hair is hiding behind him. The director asks whether the camera can even capture a ghost and asks who she is, whether she is an alien. The main character, sitting on the ground, looks at the girl and, as part of his role, asks her who she is and tells her not to approach. Fan Nin covers himself with his hands and shouts again not to come closer. The main character made a serious expression on his face and thought that the director was a professional in his field. The girl stands in a red and gold outfit with a fabric headdress. The main character jumps and gets to his feet. He thinks that it looks like he will earn a lot of money this time and adds that now it's his turn to perform. Fan Nin takes out a flashlight and turns it on, and then tells the ghost that he is not afraid of him. He shouts that he grew up in very difficult conditions and is not afraid of some ghost. The main character turns to the camera and shows his thumb. The girl floats in the air in the background. One of the viewers writes that this handsome guy cannot live and will soon come to an end. Another viewer still doubts whether this is an actor. Van and the guys from the film crew widen their eyes. Van shouts that the main character has gone crazy. There is an ominous red glow behind the girl. She puts her hands forward. The spectators are frightened. One of them writes to the demoness not to touch the presenter. The girl's fingernails become sharp claws. The director yells into Fan Nin's walkie-talkie to end the live broadcast because they have stumbled upon a real ghost. A guy with brown hair tells the director that a strange electromagnetic wave appeared in front of them, and the signal was interrupted. Van has a bead of sweat running down his face. A guy with pants with straps stands behind the director and shouts that they need to run away before it's too late. Strong streams of wind and 2 streams of magical energy emanate from the girl, the main character, and the film crew cover themselves with their hands. Streams of energy destroy the ground near the director and 2 guys from the film crew. They lie down on the ground and bow. The director shouts to the ghost to have mercy. The ghost grabs the main character's neck. The girl lifts Fan Nin into the air above her. The silhouette of a girl is reflected in the pupil of the main character. The wind blows the headdress off her head. The main character looks like a beautiful girl with white hair and red eyes. An amulet is attached to her forehead. Fan Ning's face turns red and he calls her beautiful. The camera films the girl. The audience admires the beauty of the girl. The main character grabs her hand and mentally asks what is happening, because what is happening is at odds with the script. The main character does not understand where she got such strength from. He cannot breathe and is trembling. A strong wind blows the baseball cap off the main character's head. The audience is shocked by what is happening. The main character closes his eyes. He mentally asks the question what is happening and whether she is going to kill him. The director, the guy with brown hair and the guy in the pants with straps rise from their knees. Van says in a trembling voice that it's all over and they're finished. The guy with the strappy pants tells the director that he is too young and asks the director to come up with something. The director loudly asks what can be done here. He invites the guy to take a closer look at the situation himself and asks whether they can do something. Fan Nin stops holding the girl's hand. The main character loses consciousness. It's like he's drowning in a dark space. Blue particles and a flash of light appear around Fan Nin. A bright flash of energy pierces the body of the main character. Fan Ning's consciousness returns. With an angry expression on his face, he again grabs the girl's hand. A bright glow emanates from his bracelet. Fan Nin loudly shouts to her if she even knows how important this broadcast is to him. Fan Nin thought that she couldn't ruin the show. The girl looks at the shining bracelet of the protagonist. A bright stream of energy pushes the ghost away. She flew to the side. The main character coughs while sitting on the ground. He looks at the girl and thinks that he is finished. The main character gets to his feet and wonders whether what is happening is part of the show that the film crew put on. The main character sighs and thought that he needed to calm down since he was on a live broadcast. He adds that he tried hard, so everything should go smoothly. The main character says that he did not expect the real princess to appear from the grave. The girl looks at the main character's hand with a bracelet. Fan Nin brushes the dust off his hand and says that since he is destined to die, he wants to do something that he would never dare to do in life. The main character straightens his hair and says that this ghost is like a beautiful peony flower. Fan Nin gives a thumbs up with a smile on his face and says that he has made his decision. He takes a step towards the princess. Fan Nin bows and calls out to the princess who stands in front of him. He takes something out of his jacket and asks her to give up her 1,000 years of loneliness. He takes out a case with a diamond ring. Fan Nin, with a happy face, asks the princess to become his wife. Van, the guy with brown hair and the guy in the strappy pants are shocked. On the broadcast, the main character raises a case with a ring above himself in front of a ghost. Viewers write that the presenter has gone crazy. The main character with a smile on his face thought that this was the most suitable moment for the climax. The girl asks the question, "Marry you?" Her eyes seem to come to life. She grabs the main character's hand, and wind currents blow around her. The main character wonders what is wrong with this actress and why she doesn't follow the script. A bead of sweat runs down his face. He adds that shouldn't she have run away as soon as she heard the marriage proposal. The girl approaches the main character's head. Streams of energy spread around them. Looking at the ring, she asks the question if he came to pick her up. She says one word, "Why?" The main character is surprised. She cries and screams why he made her wait so long. The blue glow and wind currents around them intensify. The main character grabs his head and wonders whether high-quality special effects can create gusts of wind. Her right eye begins to glow red. She screams why he left her alone and abandoned her. The cameraman and the guy with the cigarette are blown away by air currents. Van, the guy with the strappy pants, and the guy with brown hair are also blown away by the wind. The director hits a tree. Black and purple energy appears near the girl. A ghostly image appears behind the girl, smiling evilly. The main character turns away with an alarmed expression on his face. Half of the girl's face becomes ghostly and smiles. There is interference on the broadcast. Some viewers are worried about the presenter. Someone writes that they knew that this would happen. The main character tries to run away from the girl, but only pulls her hand. He thinks that special effects are definitely not capable of this and adds that he has just become famous and cannot die here. The main character thought that he had not yet earned enough money and turned towards the girl. The girl cries and asks why he left and abandoned her here. The main character, looking at her, opens his mouth slightly. Fan Nin remembers how a man in a formal suit tells the main character to stay here for a few days. His parents will come back for him soon. A girl with long brown hair says that his aunt and uncle will take care of him and asks him to obey them. The main character cries while sitting in water from an overturned bucket. The man calls the little protagonist a fool, tells him to stop whining and that no one needs him. He adds that he advises Fan Nin to try hard, otherwise he will be whipped. The main character wrapped himself in a blanket and says that he misses his mom and dad and asks them to come back soon, and he will obey them in everything. With tears on his face, he asks not to leave him alone. The main character looks at the ghost and says that she looks just like him. He strokes her head and tells her not to cry. He takes the ring out of the case. Fan Nin put a diamond ring on the ring finger of a crying girl. The main character presses and hugs the ghost. Fan Nin says he came back to pick her up. The ghost half of the girl's face becomes normal again. A strong stream of air pushes the main character into the sky. He hits his head on a tree and blood oozes out. Someone calls the main character. Director Van calls the main character's name when he opens his eyes. In front of him is Van and 3 other members of the film crew. The main character has a scratch under his eye. Members of the film crew notice that the main character has woken up. Fan Nin puts his hand on the site of the impact and asks what happened. Director Van breathes a sigh of relief. Fan Nin asks where the ghost girl is. Van and the crew members look at each other. Van says that after a gust of wind the main character lost consciousness. The director asks if anyone knows what happened after they plunged into oblivion yesterday. The operator looks at the camera in his hand and says that there is nothing on it, and the broadcast was interrupted after a gust of wind. The main character remembers how he put the ring on the ghost and asks what happened. The main character sweeps off the dust and says that these thoughts are enough. He thought that the princess's grave was terrifying at night, but during the day it looked normal. Van points to the smartphone with the streamer's channel and says with joy in his voice that over 150,000 subscribers have subscribed to the main character's channel. He adds that the income was 30,000 yuan. The main character is holding a smartphone in his hands, and Van loudly says that taking into account the tax from the platform, they will receive 15,000 and adds that he will send the main character a video from yesterday's broadcast and is sure that after it there will be many more fans. Fan Nin replies to him, "Sure, come on." The main character smiles and hugs the director. Fan Nin says that this time there is nothing to worry about and adds that he will share the profits in accordance with the contract and hopes for beneficial cooperation in the future. The main character with a joyful face says that they have been here all night and it's time to rest. Van answers him, "Good." Van tells the crew to get ready, and they agree. An apartment building overgrown with vegetation. The main character walks near a building with a white car in the background. Fan Ning walks up the stairs. He takes out the key hidden under the carpet in front of the door. The main character opens the door to the apartment. Light from the street illuminates the apartment. Fan Ning takes a can of cola from the table and drinks it. He threw the can in the trash. The main character lies down on the sofa and closes his eyes. He takes out his smartphone with a recording of the broadcast. The main character thought that the video was published only half an hour ago, but the number of viewers exceeded 100,000 people. He notes that the comments are pure madness. In the comments, some people praise the quality of the video and the presenter, while others admire the ghost girl. One commentator doubts the veracity of the video. The main character, with a smile on his face, thinks that they have made it to the top and will become 100% popular in the future. The main character remembers a crying ghost and thought that he never knew her name. Fan Nin takes off his jacket and says that he feels tired even though he just woke up. He wonders if the ghost will be chasing him now after he proposed. The main character waves his hand and thinks that he wants to live in peace, and then adds that she must be tied to her grave and will not be able to come. The main character lies down on the bed and says that the girl is probably now lying calmly in her grave. The main character, falling asleep, thinks that he would rather think about popularity and earning money. The main character has fallen asleep. His face is illuminated by the light from the window, and green particles are flying around him. The window shows a crescent moon against the night sky. The main character wakes up and opens his eyes. His hand reaches for the phone. He asks what time it is and whether he slept for 24 hours. The main character asks where the phone is and grabs the red cloth. He pays attention to what he grabbed. In front of him is the same ghost girl. She climbs on top of the main character and looks at him. The main character is perplexed by what is happening. He moves away from the girl with a frightened face and thinks that he is sleeping. Fan Nin closes his eyes and says that he thought about it too much, so he fell into a lucid dream. The girl sits in front of him. The main character claps his hands and says that since this is a lucid dream, he can do whatever he wants, and then repeats many times that he does not see her. Fan Ning opens one eye. The girl sits in front of him and is silent. The main character is very scared because the girl does not disappear. The ghost tilts his head slightly with a questioning look. The main character grabs his head and says that he is too tired and therefore cannot get out of sleep. Fan Nin raises his finger up and with a joyful expression on his face says that he remembers a way to check whether a person is sleeping or not by pressing his finger. The main character grabs his finger and says that if you sleep, you won't feel pain. Fan Ning screams in pain throughout the street. Outside the window, two cats are scared because of the noise. The main character holds his hand with a sore finger, and the ghost asks Fan Nin what he is doing. The main character has a drop of sweat running down his face. He assumes that this is not a dream. Fan Nin touched the girl's hand and concluded that she was indeed real. The main character rises to his feet and points his finger at the girl. Fan Nin asks the girl where she is from here. He thinks that this is the end, because the ghost followed him to his house. He mentally asks what he should do now. The girl takes the hand of the main character. The main character asks what's the matter and if she's going to kill him. The girl smiles and says that she came to see him. The main character is in shock, as if he is turning to stone. He asks her why, because they don't even really know each other. The girl's face turned red. She tells the main character that he is her husband. Fan Nin thought about what this meant. With a smile on his face, he concluded that she wanted to become his bride. A red glow appears behind the girl. Wind flows from it and she asks if he forgot. The main character puts his hands forward and wanted to say that he made a mistake yesterday. The girl's increasing anger interrupts the protagonist, and a ghostly dark image with sharp teeth appears above her. Fan Ning is shaking. The main character with a frightened face thought about how scared he was. He adds that the most important thing is to protect himself and he should talk everything over. He grabs the girl's hand and exclaims that he hasn't forgotten. He asks her name with his eyes closed and a smile on his face. She points to herself and says the name Zhong Lai. The protagonist replies, "Ah, that's right, Zhong Lai." He looks happy. The main character thinks that he survived and adds that if he does not agree with her words, he will die. Fan Nin thought she was cute. He mentally asks himself the question, has he really been lonely for so long that he has his eyes on a ghost girl? Fan Nin coughs and asks her how she got here, because his house is at least 10 kilometers from her grave. She touches her cheek with a finger. She rises into the air and is enveloped in a green glow. The main character turns in her direction. She flies straight at the main character. Fan Nin was preparing to catch her, but the girl disappeared. Fan Nin asks what just happened. A bright green dot is visible on his chest. The main character looks around in search of a girl. The girl's head comes out of the body of the frightened protagonist and she says that she is here in his body. The main character screams loudly. A green beam flies out of the main character's chest. Jiang Lai falls to the floor in front of the main character. She gets down on all fours and holds her cheek. The main character smiles and thinks that she looks quite nice and is not hostile towards him. The girl gets to her feet, leaning on the bed. She got caught on her clothes. Because Jiang Lai gets caught, she falls to the ground. The main character points his finger at her clothes and asks if it is comfortable for her to move in this dress and offers to change clothes. The girl tilts her head slightly. She puts her index finger, ring finger and thumb together and a green glow appears. Streams of green energy envelop the girl. The main character asks if this is a transformation technique. The girl's outer clothing completely disappears and she is now naked. The main character has blood oozing from his nose. He thinks about what he said to change his clothes, not take them off. The girl puts her hand on her chest and tells the main character that his nose is bleeding, calling him husband. Fan Nin throws her a white shirt. A girl with a dissatisfied face is holding a shirt. The main character, turning away, sat down on the floor and crossed his arms, wondering if she really doesn't understand anything. He assumes that she is trying to seduce him and take over his 20-year-old body. The main character asks if she changed her clothes. Jiang Lai says yes. The main character turns towards the girl, her legs in the foreground. The girl wearing a white shirt says that this clothing is very tight. The main character, embarrassed, buttons up a button on a girl's shirt. Fan Nin put the brush to his forehead and thought that he couldn't be allowed to lose too much blood. Jiang Lai raises his hands at shoulder level. The shirt is too tight, there is a gap between the buttons at chest level. The main character says that these are his clothes and therefore they do not fit. He asks her if she will pursue him forever and treats him like a husband. She answers with enthusiasm on her face that yes, because where her husband is, there she is. The girl adds that if her husband says to do something, she will do everything right away. The main character puts his hand to his forehead and thinks that this is not a dream and that the ghost girl from the legend is actually standing in front of him. Fan Ning sighs and says okay. Fan Nin passes by the girl and tells her to follow him. Jiang Lai turns towards the main character. The girl reaches her hand towards the camera. The main character thought that since she would do everything he said, then it was really so. But he claims that ghosts can also lie and therefore it is worth checking her. Fan Ning opens the bathroom door. Jiang Lai looks at her reflection in the mirror and says that she can be seen so clearly, and then asks why they came here. Fan Ning goes to the mirror and reminds her that she said that she will do whatever her husband asks. The girl smiles and, calling the main character beloved, replies that it is so. The main character's eyes are not visible due to the shadow of his hair. He smiles and says that if so, then he will teach her something. The girl has a drop of sweat running down her cheek and opens her mouth slightly. Fan Nin holds a toothbrush in his hand and says that since she is going to live with him, she needs to learn how to brush her teeth. The main character squeezes toothpaste onto his toothbrush and says that he will buy her a brush and a glass, but for now he will show her everything. He adds that the first step is to squeeze the toothpaste onto the brush. The main character waves a toothbrush and says that you then need to put the toothpaste on your teeth and move it up and down to thoroughly clean everything, and then rinse your mouth and spit it out. The girl quickly approaches the main character. His facial expression is frightened. The girl took the toothbrush into her mouth. She takes it in her hands and moves it up and down. Jiang Lai asks if this is how it should be cleaned. The protagonist's face turns red. He says, "Hey, that's my brush." He mentally asks if this is an indirect kiss. She spits into the glass. The main character thought that she was learning quickly. The girl looks at herself in the mirror. Jiang Lai bends down in front of the sink. She turns to the main character with a toothbrush in her mouth and asks if she is doing everything right. The main character opens his mouth and thinks it's cute. The embarrassed protagonist puts his palm to his face and turns away from Jiang Lai. He thought that she had done everything right. Fan Nin takes the toothbrush out of the girl's mouth and tells her not to take his brush again. The main character washes his toothbrush and tells the girl that since she decided to stay here, she should wait until he buys her a personal one. The main character touches the girl's hair. She thanks him and apologizes for the inconvenience. The girl puts her hand to her chest. The main character tells her that everything is fine, but asks why she wants him to become her husband and treats him so well. A girl with a sad face says that she doesn't remember and she just wants to. She adds that she only remembers that Fan Ning is her husband. She puts her hand to her head. The girl looking in the mirror adds that she seems to be looking for something important. The main character wonders what she is looking for and whether she has amnesia, and also assumes that this is why she decided to become closer to him. The girl says she doesn't remember anything and it's hard for her. Jiang Lai adds that it is something to do with her head and suggests that she is receiving a warning. The main character puts a toothbrush and toothpaste in a glass and thinks about the warning and adds that he finds it hard to believe in all this. The main character, heading towards the exit from the bathroom, beckons the girl with his hand and says that this is not the best place for discussions, and then tells her to return to the room while he goes to the toilet. The main character stands in front of the toilet. He thought that the girl did not remember anything, but she was haunted by an unfulfilled goal that she wanted to fulfill. Fan Nin wonders if she forgot what she was supposed to do. The main character turns his head with a dissatisfied face. He noticed something. Jiang Lai stands next to him and watches carefully. The main character, with a dissatisfied expression on his face, asks what she is up to. The girl replies that she wants to wait for her husband. The main character is confused, and there is an awkward silence between them. The main character kicked the girl out of the toilet. He closes the door and yells at her to wait outside. Jiang Lai is sitting on the floor. The main character breathes out a sigh of relief. He thinks that in any case, he will then need to discuss everything, understand the situation, and only then make a decision. He adds that she may only be pretending to be defenseless, and if the goal is achieved, she will most likely bare her claws. Fan Nin, remembering how she looked, thought that she was quite cute. He thinks that she calls him husband, but ghosts cannot be with people, and he is not going to go to great lengths. The main character shakes his head, remembering images from the movie. The main character heads out of the bathroom, thinking that it is best to make Jiang Lai leave quickly. He opens the door with a smile on his face and calls her name. Fan Ning is shocked, as if he had turned into stone and cracked. Jiang Lai is reading a magazine while lying in his bed. This is a magazine for adults of the main character. He screams when he sees what she is reading. He jumps on the bed and yells at the girl to give her the magazine, but she flies into the air with her powers. The main character looks at her with a red face and asks her where she got the magazine from. The girl hovers in the air above the main character and reads a magazine. She says that she found it under the bed. Jiang Lai, with interest on his face, asks why everyone in this book is without clothes. Is it because they are also spouses? She asks if they should do the same. The main character blushes and trembles when he thinks about her words. The main character tries to grab the magazine, but the girl flies away from him. He says that he was just walking through the store and the old man tricked him into this magazine. The main character thinks that she is really so insightful that she found the magazines that he hid for many years. Jiang Lai points to one of the pages and asks why the girl in the illustration is behaving this way. The main character becomes even more embarrassed. Fan Nin snatches the magazine from Jiang Lai with an angry expression and yells at her to give her the book and that she shouldn't read it. The main character, with a red face, hides the book back under the bed and tells the girl not to touch his things in the future without asking. Jiang Lai sits on the bed and responds approvingly to the main character. Fan Nin tells her what she said in the bathroom, but the girl interrupts him. She gets closer to his face. The girl looks at the lower half of the main character's body. He told her not to stare so intently. The girl remembers the contents of the magazine and says that there were such different pictures. She flexes her fingers and licks the tip of her lips. She thought she understood everything. The girl tries to grab the main character. With an embarrassed, frightened face, he loudly asks her what she is doing. The girl, with a slightly angry expression on her face, replies that she is following the instructions from the book and tells the main character to undress. The main character shouts at her to forget about this book already, asks why he needs to undress and asks her to stop. Jiang Lai, with a dissatisfied expression on her face, says that she does everything for his sake, because he is her husband, and she wants to fulfill her marital duty. The main character jumps back and says that there is no need, because they just met. Fan Nin says that he wanted to sit down and chat. The main character thinks that he still hasn't had a girlfriend and he doesn't want everything to go so quickly. With a sly expression on his face, he thinks that if she continues, he will no longer be able to resist. There is no way out. The girl sits on the bed and looks reproachfully at the main character. Fan Nin made a perplexed expression on his face. He doesn't understand what's going on. He shakes his head and mentally asks what he was thinking about. He thought that he could finally get down to business. He exhales and says that they need to find something, but does not have time to say what exactly. She holds her cheeks and says that she understood. Everyone in the book was without clothes. The girl says that she will take off her clothes first. The girl pulls out one of the buttons on her shirt. The main character thought that she was at her best again, and when would she calm down? The main character, with a very embarrassed face, opens his mouth wide. The girl smiles and calls Fan Nin her husband and says that now he must do this to her. She takes the main character by the hands and asks the main character if he likes it. She reaches out to the protagonist's face. Fan Nin throws the red and white shirt at her with an embarrassed face. Outside the window there is a crescent moon against the background of the starry sky. The girl puts on a shirt while the main character turns away. Fan Nin turns around and asks her if she is dressed. He tells her to stop remembering the illustrations from the book. She, wearing shorts and a red and white shirt, agrees with the main character. The sleeves of the shirt are too long. The main character asks why she can't create clothes using magic. She replies that she cannot create things out of thin air. The girl sniffs the sleeve and says that the shirt has the smell of her husband. The main character with a red face shouts at her not to sniff. The girl stands still. The main character thought that even ghosts get caught on camera. He asks Zhonglai if she really is a ghost. The girl answers him, a ghost. She shakes her head around and says that not at all. Fan Nin asks who she is. The girl with a slightly sad expression on her face is silent. The main character, with a serious expression on his face, thinks that her soul has really become something else and adds that in any case, she needs to be sent back as quickly as possible. The girl takes the main character by the hand. Fan Nin asks the girl if she remembers where she lost her item. She says no. A girl with a pitiful look tells the main character that she is hungry. The girl looks intently into the face of the main character. Fan Nin wonders if ghosts also have a feeling of hunger. There is light coming from the refrigerator. Fan Nin holds the girl's hand and looks into the refrigerator. He wonders if ghosts can eat human food. He gives the girl a loaf of bread. Zhonglai takes the bread cake and opens his mouth. The girl, closing her eyes, bites a flatbread. She will hand the flatbread to the main character. She asks if she likes it. She replies that she won't get enough of this. Fan Nin takes the cake in his hand and thinks that it looks like she needs to replenish her energy, but he doesn't know what she will eat if human food is not suitable. Fan Nin asks what she wants to taste. He hopes that she will not suck the energy out of him. The girl looks out the window, where light comes from the crescent moon. The girl's face turns red. She says that there seems to be something tasty there. The guy asks, is it tasty? The main character opens the window and asks where it is. The girl's hands are shrouded in a green glow. She takes the main character by the shoulders. The girl lifts the main character into the air. Fan Ning screams loudly in fear. They fly over the night city. The main character yells, what's going on? The main character looks up at the girl and asks where they are going. Fan Ning and Zhonglai fly against the night sky. The main character lands on the ground. Fan Nin leans on a tree because he has vomited. The girl is going somewhere. The main character, with a dissatisfied expression on his face, asks what kind of place this is. He notices something that surprises him. The girl walks towards a tall building. Black crows are flying in the sky. Moonlight illuminates a tall building. The main character, together with Zhonglai, heads to the entrance of the building and says that this is Heiyuan Elementary School, and tries to remember where he heard about it. The main character, with a phone in his hand, examines the school grounds and sees a huge amount of garbage. The main character determines his location using the Maps application on his phone. Fan Nin sees that he is in Heiyuan Village. He thought he had heard about the village on the news. The main character looks at his phone in fear and thinks that despite the fact that the place is only a few kilometers from his house, he has not seen anyone come here. He thought about what they were saying about the developer who planned to build an amusement park here. People in business suits shake hands with an excavator in the background. The main character adds that the developer bought the land, which is why the residents had to move. Dead people covered in blood lie among the rubble. Fan Nin adds that during construction, a number of paranormal phenomena occurred, and then the developer and others were found dead. This is how this place became abandoned. Fan Nin had drops of sweat running down his face and asked Zhonglai why they came here. The girl says there's something delicious inside. The protagonist asks, delicious, you say? The main character is confused. He thought that it was very similar to her energy and assumes that she wants to feast on some evil spirits. The main character hides behind a tree and tells her to go alone, and he will wait for success here. Zhonglai replies that she cannot go far from her husband. The girl holds onto the protagonist's shoulder and tells him to come with her. Zhonglai pushes the main character to school. He agrees with her, but tells her not to push because he can walk himself. The girl presses herself against the back of the main character and calls him cute and says that now they will have a delicious meal. A newspaper page with information about the mysterious disappearance of a Heiyuan school student. The main character says that 10 years ago there were a number of cases of missing students. A woman sits on the ground and cries, with 3 police officers next to her. There are many people and a school in the background. The main character adds that a 6th grader named Lion Zion suddenly disappeared. Her parents decided to report this to the police. A group of rescuers and a dog climb the mountain. They searched the entire school and nearby areas, but found no traces, as if Lion Zion had simply disappeared. The girl's body lies in the middle of the room. The students are scared. A month later, Lion Zion's body appeared in the middle of the school building, frightening both teachers and students. Police are investigating the area where the body was found. The police blocked off the scene. The autopsy revealed that Lion Zion had died at least a month ago, but no traces were found, as if the body had appeared out of nowhere. Half a month later, Jiang Chang, the former principal of Heiyuan Junior School, was found hanged in his office. The main character goes to school with Jiang Lai and says that since then supernatural incidents have not stopped at Heiyuan Elementary School, and then it was closed by blocking the road. Fan Nin with a frightened face reads the information from the phone and says that Lion Zion disappeared, and then appeared out of nowhere, and moreover, the director also committed suicide, and this is not to mention the incident during construction. He adds that nothing good will happen here. Jiang Lai flies around the main character. He says that something sinister seems to be living here. The girl places her palm on the head of the statue. Fan Nin invites the girl to return. The girl looks at the main character with an angry look. He replies that he was just joking. The main character puts a strand of hair over his eyes and thinks that he shouldn't trust her completely, although she looks stronger than anyone else. The main character opens the double doors. The light falls on the floor of the corridor. There is a cobweb on the ceiling of the corridor. The mouse runs away from the light of the phone. The girl flies behind the main character, who illuminates the path with a phone flashlight. She hugs Fan Nin and, calling him husband, points her hand upward. The main character climbs the stairs. Study room number 5 Fahrenheit. In the foreground is a sign that says Director's Office, and Fan Nin and Jiang Lai can be seen at the far end of the corridor. The girl quickly flies forward. The main character puts out his hand and shouts to her to wait. They open the door to the director's office. Jiang Lai and Fan Ning enter the office with the director's office desk. The protagonist tried to say something, but girl interrupts him and with a happy face says, "Delicious." The main character takes a comb in his hand and blows off the dust from it. The comb is decorated with a blue flower. Fan Nin thought it was very cold here. The girl, with the help of her supernatural powers, snatches the comb from the main character and licks her lips. She draws black-green energy from the comb. The comb falls down and the main character catches it. The girl holds her head with a happy expression on her face. He clenches his hands into fists at shoulder level and says that she tastes it. The main character asks her what she ate. The main character thinks that the comb no longer smells cold and it looks like an ordinary one. The girl replies that she ate the power of the soul that was hidden inside the comb. The girl jumps with joy and says that as soon as she ate, the feeling of hunger immediately disappeared. The protagonist asks, "The power of the soul." Fan Nin puts the comb on the table. He thinks that there is some evil lurking in the school. Jiang Lai takes Fan Ning's hand and presses herself close to him. The girl calls the main character and says that there is even more delicious food here. The main character asks where. The girl replies that she doesn't know, but thinks that she is somewhere close. The guy, holding his head with one hand, offers to search together. The main character stopped in one place. Fan Nin thought that he could make a video about paranormal phenomena. He turns to the office desk and says what he came up with. He turns to Jiang Lai and invites her to stay here and earn some money. The girl raises her hand to chest level and asks, "Stay." Earned. The main character takes the girl's hand and asks her if she can determine the location of the other powers of the soul. She replies that she can, but only approximately. The main character turns away from the girl, clenches his hand into a fist and shouts, "Wonderful." The main character holds a smartphone in both hands. He has money instead of pupils. He thinks that he can even get into the hot section and adds that his video will definitely make a splash. There is a cobweb hanging in the corner of the room. The main character gives the girl instructions on how to shoot a video and asks if she remembered. The girl replies that of course, holding the smartphone in both hands. She and the smartphone are shrouded in a green glow. The smartphone begins to float in the air. Fan Nin strokes the girl and says that they will go for delicious food while she films. The girl flies around the main character and exclaims, "Yummy, yummy." The main character looks at the comb with an inspired face and thinks about what a beauty her flying wife is with superpowers. He adds that you couldn't imagine a better operator. He thought that he would let her be his cameraman. They would film everything and post it online. The main character, with a cup in his hand, towers over other streamers along with Jiang Lai. The audience praises the main character. He smiles while he fantasizes. Fan Nin thought that he would get a decent amount of views, and his popularity would skyrocket, and he would earn a lot of money. The ruined and dirty corridor is illuminated by light from the windows. The main character says that everything must go neatly and cleanly. The girl replies that she understands and adds that she loves treats. The main character says that they need to get ready. The main character tells the girl with the phone not to stop filming, no matter what happens. The main character shows the girl an approving gesture and she presses the start recording button. The main character raises his finger up and greets the audience, introducing himself as the leader of the beggars and saying that they have not seen each other for a long time. He asks the audience if they are bored. A viewer with the nickname Translucent writes that he hasn't seen the presenter for a long time, but he hasn't changed at all. Dark corridor, light leaks from the director's office. The main character says that the auditoriums are empty and abandoned, and the time is exactly 1 in the morning. The main character with a smile on his face says that he is here again after the princess's tomb. He says that this is Haeyuan Elementary School, an abandoned place. The main character spreads his arms wide and says that this is a school founded 40 years ago and is a project of the Shanyuan Foundation. He adds that the mysterious disappearance of a young girl 10 years ago gave rise to a strange legend about Haeyuan Village and this place. There are a lot of debris near the cabinets. Fan Nin adds that every year since then, there have been multiple accidents and deaths in this place, but 3 years ago the school was demolished and all the residents moved away. The main character with a gloomy look asks questions whether all these mysterious events are a coincidence, whether third parties are involved here, or whether it is all the work of ghosts. He says that he is going to get inside the school and check everything personally. The comb behind the main one is shrouded in red energy. Fan Nin tells the audience that as they can see, this used to be the director's office. The comb rises into the air. Jiang Lai says with an appetite on her face, "How delicious." She turns her head from side to side and thought that now she can't think about food. The girl thinks she wants to make a good video, but eats after filming. Fan Nin says that they say that the body of the girl Lion Zion, who mysteriously disappeared earlier, was found right next to the director's office. He says that even the director himself hanged himself in this room, which means that this place is the main source of deaths. He adds that during the examination he discovered a strange female wooden comb. He's going to say what follows from this. Fan Nin heard something strange. He turns his head back and asks what's the matter. The comb flies in circles over the table. Fan Nin turns to Jiang Lai and says, "Jiang Lai, you." He thinks it was Jiang Lai who used her power to help with the special effects, but he doesn't remember telling her about it. A dark hand with sharp nails grabs the protagonist's hand. Fan Ning looks at Jiang Lai and concludes that it is definitely not her. He looks again in the direction of the scallop. A ghost of a girl with black eyes and long black hair appears before him. He thinks about what is this. The main character looks scared and Jiang Lai behind him yawns. The ghost grabs the main character by the neck. The ghost squeezes his hand tightly around the main character's neck. He thinks that he can't even squeak, that his body has stopped listening to him. The evil ghost grabs Fan Nin's neck with his second hand. The main character wonders if this is the ghost's ability and doesn't understand what to do, because he can't even move. He mentally asks Jiang Lai to save him. A ghost with black eyes looks intently at the main character. The main character trembles thinking, "Jiang Lai, don't you know anything?" The girl licks the corner of her lips and thinks about making a good video, and then eating delicious food. The main character is suffocating and drooling from his mouth. He mentally asks Jiang Lai to help because he can't stand it anymore. Fan Ning closes his eyes. The amulet on his hand begins to glow brightly. He thought that he would not die in this place. His eyes and amulet begin to glow bright orange. He grabs the ghost's hand. The evil ghost became wary when he grabbed her hand. The girl moves away from the main character, who is still holding her hand and is shrouded in a golden aura. The evil ghost thinks, how is it possible that he touched her? The main character throws the evil ghost right into the rubble. She screams loudly. Fan Nin holds his throat and coughs. He looks at his aura-covered hands and asks what kind of power this is. The main character looks at the ghost. The evil ghost sits down on his knees and asks the main character why he is doing this to her. An evil ghost rests his hand on the ground. She pushes off the ground and attacks the main character in a jump. Jiang Lai's voice sounds in the main character's head using telepathy. She tells him to duck. Fan Nin ducked and the evil ghost flew past the main character. The evil ghost gets to his feet and turns towards the main character. Fan Nin thinks that his body suddenly became as flexible as that of some gymnastics champion. The evil ghost runs away, and the main character, noticing her actions, thinks that this is a deceptive maneuver. An evil ghost runs towards a wooden door. She hits the door. Green circles emanate from the point of impact. The girl, taking a lying position, uses telepathy to convey to the main character the words that he can practice and says to finish her off. The main character looks at his hand, shrouded in energy, with an evil ghost in the background. He thinks that what he heard in his head was Zhang Lai's voice. He assumes that it was she who gave him strength. The main character smiles and thinks about how cool this is and that it's time for his show. Fan Nin hits the ghost, but the ghost dodges. She thinks that he thinks about himself. The main character grabs the hand of an evil ghost. The evil ghost thinks that something is wrong and she needs to hurry. The main character, shrouded in golden energy, tells her that he has caught her and she will not leave. He throws it at the wall, causing it to crack. The ghost screams in pain. The main character presses her hand to the wall and says that she dared to attack him, but he was able to catch her without any problems. He warns her not to try to run away. The evil ghost smiles and transforms into a human. Her skin becomes normal flesh color. The main character is very surprised looking at her. She looks like a beautiful girl with blue eyes. She cuddles up to the main character and calls him brother. The ghost whispers in the main character's ear and asks if he can let her go. Snuggling up to Fan Nin, she asks him to let her go in exchange for her doing whatever he wants. She touched Fan Ning's ear with her tongue. With a flushed, joyful face, he thought how great it was for him. A green aura appears near the main character. He looks scared. Zhang Lai, with an eye glowing red with anger and shrouded in green energy, calls the main character her husband and conveys the words by telepathy. Fan Nin points his finger at the evil ghost and with a menacing face tells her to stop and accuses her of being so promiscuous. The evil ghost looks upset. She thinks where he got such aggression from. The main character clenches his hand into a fist and shouts to the girl so that she does not think that she can shake his iron while using such stupid methods. Fan Nin imagines Zhang Lai, wearing skimpy clothes, beating the tied-up protagonist with a whip. He thought that Zhang Lai's gaze was so frightening just now and how good it was that he reacted quickly. The main character wipes the sweat from his forehead with relief. The evil ghost cries and calls the main character brother and says that she doesn't want to hurt him. She breathes energy into herself from the main character. The main character coughs. There are small clouds of smoke around. Fan Nin tries to grab onto the evil ghost's hand, but it disappears. An evil ghost with an ominous face appears behind the main character and laughs, and then says that she deceived him and simply wanted to absorb the power of his soul. The evil ghost hits Fan Nin on the back and says that she is now twice as strong as she was before. The main character falls, but during the flight he gets to his feet. The evil ghost is enveloped in black and blue streams of energy. The main character has 4 cuts on his back. The evil ghost thanks the main character for the delicious dinner. The flows of energy around her move apart. With an ominous smile, she heads towards the main character and shouts that he cannot escape his fate. She makes 4 quick strikes, and the main character dodges. One of the attacks scratched the main character's leg. The evil ghost wonders what is happening, because the main character is getting faster and faster. She screams loudly and black and blue circles rush towards Fan Nin. She hides half her body in blue-black energy and rushes towards the main character. She attacks the main character, but her blow is stopped. The evil ghost is surprised by what is happening. The main character grabbed the hand of the evil ghost and tells her that she dared to attack him, and now they have switched roles. The girl raises her clawed hand and shouts to the main character that she will kill him. The main character hits the evil ghost on the cheek and tells her to kill him and adds that all she knows is to fight and kill. Blue energy gathers around the ghost and says how dare he. Fan Nin slaps the evil ghost again and asks if she has lost her mind and tells her to admire how she scratched him. The main character hits the girl on the table and shouts that he came here to deal with evil monsters like her. He adds that let the light of justice shine on earth. In the video, the main character fights black and blue streams of energy. Zhang Lai films what is happening with a smile on his face. She absorbs black and blue streams of energy flying near her. She holds her cheeks and licks the corner of her lips and says that this is delicious. The main character swings his fist at an evil ghost. He shouts at her to tell her what she is and why she hurts people. She cries and says, "I." The evil ghost begins to cry heavily. The main character thought why she suddenly started crying, and he now looks like some kind of hooligan and villain. The evil ghost sits on his knees and wipes away his tears. She asks the main character standing in front of her why he is doing this to her. He is surprised looking at the girl who is leaving black and blue streams of energy. Fan Nin asks her if she is Lion Zion. She transforms into a girl from a newspaper article about a missing schoolgirl. Lion Zion asks the main character if he knows her. The main character sits down and asks Lion Zion if it's really her. Lion Zion apologizes and says that she has no idea who he is. The main character thinks that if he manages to find out more about those strange events, then this video will become popular. He takes her by the shoulders and asks what it all means, how she died and why she attacked him. The girl looks scared. The main character asks if there are other ghosts in the school besides her. The girl says it was him, he forced her, but she didn't want to. The main character asks who she means and whether her death is his business. The main character remembers a fat man with a belt in his hand, who stands over the small main character. Fan Nin with an angry face thinks about who the girl is talking about and who can even afford to kill an innocent girl. The main character hugs the girl and tells her to tell her brother who this he is and not to be afraid, because he will definitely help. The girl asks the main character if he can help her. Fan Nin replies with a smile on his face that of course. The girl begins to tell who she meant. A black space appears behind her. The main character reaches out to the girl, shouting her name. The girl is drawn into the black space. She reaches out her hand to the main character. The girl asks the main character to save her. Black space absorbs the girl. Black and red energy absorbed Lion Zion, tentacles emanating from the round center. The main character with a frightened face wonders what it is. A huge ghost with red eyes and a sharp mouth appears in front of the main character from a black and red space, tells the main character to die and asks how he dares to touch his Lion Zion. The ghost screams and swings his fist at the main character. Fan Nin gritted his teeth and thought that this monster would not be easy to deal with. Jiang Lai stands in front of the main character, concentrating green energy in 2 fingers. She asks the huge ghost what he is planning to do with her husband. The giant ghost's fist hits the green barrier. The main character is thrown away and hits the wall. He falls from the wall to the ground. Jiang Lai, holding the barrier with one hand, turns towards the main character. Black and red energy rushes towards Jiang Lai. A huge hand breaks through the barrier and hits the girl. The main character opens his eyes and thinks about Jiang Lai. A huge ghost tries to grab Jiang Lai, who is reaching out to the main character. Blood flows down Fan Nin's eye. The main character opens his eyes. He sees Jiang Lai in front of him, calling him husband. The main character on the tree lies on Jiang Lin's lap. With a bright smile on her face, she says that her husband has woken up. The main character is surprised when he sees the girl. He slips off the girl's legs and falls from the tree. The main character screams in fear as he falls. Right near the ground he is stopped by Jiang Lai with the help of his supernatural powers. The girl flies up to the levitating protagonist. He mentally asks if this is the entrance to Heiyuan school, and if they have finally left. The main character, looking at the school, thinks about whether they ran away and what kind of black monster it was. The girl hovers over the main character and says that the food there was very tasty. The main character asks how strong that black monster was and whether she was able to defeat him. She thought about it and said that at the moment her soul power is not enough. She hands the main character the phone and says that here is the video that her beloved asked to film. She raises the ghost's huge finger above her and says that now she can eat deliciously, looking at the finger with appetite. The main character points his index finger at a huge finger and asks what kind of abomination this is and where she got it from. The girl, flying up to the finger, says that it is very tasty and she took it at the very end, when she took her husband out into the street. The main character, with confusion on his face, asks her how she eats it and invites her to come back and fry it. The girl shakes her head. She absorbs black and red energy from her finger. Jiang Lai sucked every last drop. The girl licks the corner of her mouth, enjoying the meal. The girl with a happy expression puts her hand to her cheek. A multicolored beam emanates from it. A multicolored beam rushes into the main character's torso. The main character mentally asks what is happening and adds that the fatigue that was there earlier has disappeared. The main character rests his chin on his hand and, looking at the happy Jiang Lai, thinks that it feels like Jiang Lai's soul has become much stronger. The main character adds that it looks like something like this, filled with energy, is a great way to fill the energy of the soul. The main character looks at the girl floating in the air and asks her what happened after he lost consciousness and how she pulled him out. He adds that in addition, his energy and reaction at one point became far superior to what it was before. The sun rises behind Jiang Lai. She says to the guy, "Actually, hubby." Black smoke comes from the girl. She flies up to the main character and tells him that they first need to return home. Jiang Lai hugs Fan Ning and flies home with him. The girl flies to the protagonist's apartment. Jiang Lai is sitting in the corner of the room. The main character thought that of course she was still afraid of sunlight. He closed the curtains by the window. The main character presses the switch and the lights come on in the room. The main character sits down on the bed and exhales. The girl hugs the main character and tells her beloved to calm down. The main character pushes the girl away and tells her to sit down first. Jiang Lai looks very unhappy. The main character thought that this was like raising a little animal, which would then protect him when it grew up. Fan Nin touches the girl's cheek. She looks happy. The main character, looking at the girl, says that the curtains here don't block sunlight so well and when the sun fully rises, they probably won't be able to hold it back. The girl touches the main character's torso and says that she can simply enter her husband's body. The girl with a smile on her face says that he has already made an agreement with her, and in the body of her beloved she will not die. The main character, with a frightened expression on his face, asks what she just said. The main character, with confusion on his face, asks that he doesn't remember signing the contract. The girl replies that she signed it because her husband said that he wanted to marry her. The main character remembers how he hugged the girl during his confession. He remembers how she answered him, and how she looks intently into his face. The girl raises her hand with a ring on her ring finger and says that he already signed a contract with her. She holds her head with her hands and says that now she and her beloved are one body. She adds that as long as the main character can find tasty food for her, he will be able to restore his strength. The main character puts his hand forward and tells her to stop, and then asks her to clarify what it means to become one body. The girl replies that this means that if she gets hungry, he should find her something to eat. She imagines how she and the main character lie exhausted on the ground. The girl raises her index finger up and says that if she doesn't eat, her husband will also die. The girl touches her chin and says that if her husband dies, then she will too. Jiang Lai with a smile on her face says that this is why she will protect the main character with all her might. It's as if lightning is streaking through the main character's body. He thinks that now he at least understands his causeless fatigue. The main character looks at his hand and remembers how he fought with an evil ghost with golden energy. He asks Jiang Lai if this power is her doing. The girl with a smile on her face replies that this is exactly so and now her husband can share power with her. Jiang Lai raises her hands up with a happy face. She says that if she eats a lot, then her husband can also become very powerful. The main character looks up and says that it seems to him that he made some kind of mistake and cannot believe he signed up for this. Gate near Heiyuan School. Lion Zion hits the wall, which collapses from the impact. The dark red silhouette takes a step towards the girl. The dark red silhouette reaches out to the girl and says he allows her to kill people, but she does not listen to him. He adds whether she really wants someone to know about him. The silhouette grabs the girl's neck. The ghost tells the girl that she should know that if they don't kill them first, they will kill them. The girl coughs with pressure on her neck. The black and red silhouette hugs the ghost girl and tells Lion Zion that she is only his and he will never allow her to leave him. The girl's facial expression looks very scared. The ghost smiles evilly and says that he feels that they will definitely come back and next time he will kill them with his own hands. The main character is sitting at a table in a cafe. He calls Uncle Chan and asks him how the main character's beef noodles are. Chan goes to the main character holding a bowl in his hand. Chan says that he is already carrying and asks the main character why he is so early today and adds that he usually comes right before closing. The main character replies that something happened to him this morning. The main character is served his beef noodles on the table. Chan tells the main character that he ordered a large bowl of beef noodles, slightly spicy, and with a lot of green onions and no coriander, then asks if that's correct. The main character picks up wooden chopsticks and prepares for the meal. The main character says that the dish smells delicious and thanks Uncle Chan. Chan calls the main character sweet-tongued and wishes him bon appetit. The main character starts eating noodles. He thinks that Jiang Lai said that her body does not have enough soul power. The girl sits inside the body of the main character. She tells her beloved that she has really lost a lot of her power, and if she wants to restore it, then she needs to absorb the soul. The main character eats noodles and thinks about how he can restore his strength. The girl puts her finger to her chin and says that, for example, you can eat something tasty or you can absorb the fear of other people in order to recover. The main character sucks on the noodles and asks about fears. The girl replies that she received a lot of power when she met the main character. She continues that before this it seemed to her that she was in a state of half asleep, half awake and could not think about anything. The main character imagines scary spirits and thinks that it seems that for spirits to scare the living and feed on their fear is a way to gain strength and power, and that's why in all sorts of paranormal stories there are all these scary moments. The main character inhales the noodles with a surprised face. The main character lifts the plate to drink the broth. He thinks that it seems that the fear that hundreds of thousands of people who watched the broadcast felt helped Jiang Lai restore his soul. The main character puts the plate on the table. He tells Uncle Chan that he will owe money and will pay at the end of the month. Uncle Chan waves his hand and agrees with the main character and tells him to just stop by and help as much as possible. The main character shows an approving gesture with a smile on his face. Jiang Lai flies above the main character and uses his new smartphone. The main character looks at his smartphone and thinks that if it worked with a live broadcast, it should work with a regular video. The main character watches a video of a huge ghost hitting a barrier with his fist. Fan Nin thinks it was her first time touching a smartphone, but she was able to use her power to control the camera. The main character watches the video with a smile. He thinks that if he edits the video and adds some background music and effects, it will become another hit. The main character suggests that this should frighten many spectators and thereby allow Zhonglai to replenish the power of her soul with their fear. The main character says that the team of director Van that worked with them last time was quite good, and the price was affordable. The main character looks at the girl and says, "By the way, Zhonglai." The girl quickly approaches the protagonist's face. She crosses her arms with a dissatisfied face and says that when her husband calls her that, she feels like a stranger. The main character points a finger at himself and suggests calling her like little Li. She says with a happy face that this is better. The main character thought it was hard for him. Fan Nin talks to little Li about the ghost they met at school yesterday. The girl replies that it was very tasty. The main character says that this is so and asks if she has any ideas on how to get rid of this tasty guy. The main character thinks that the video recorded yesterday is incomplete and they should go back there and finish filming it. He adds that they will investigate the mystery of Heiyuan Elementary School and create a full-fledged series that will become even more popular than the video about the princess's tomb. The main character clenches his hand into a fist and thinks that he also promised to help Lion Zion. He wants to know what really happened at Heiyuan Elementary School. The girl sits on the bed and says that she is not strong enough now and starts talking about the hairpin. But the main character interrupts her. Fan Nin takes the girl's hand and asks her if this is the hairpin she was talking about earlier. The main character adds that if she remembers where she is, he will find her. The girl replies that since she ate a lot of delicious food, some memories returned to her and he remembered that it was stolen from her 6 months ago. She adds that at that time she simply relied on her instincts and from time to time appeared at the princess's tomb for a short time before regaining consciousness. The girl cries and asks the main character to help her return there. She adds that this hairpin is very important to her. The main character strokes the girl and says that they are now one, so if this is so important to her, then they will look for her together. He asks if she can defeat yesterday's ghost with this hairpin. The girl with a smile on her face says that yes, she is sure that if they find the hairpin, she will be able to eat it. The main character holds his hand on the back of his head and asks where they should look. He adds that he doesn't even know what it looks like, and he doesn't even know the person who stole it. The girl replies that she vaguely remembers the 3 tomb robbers. The girl with a sad expression on her face says that 2 of them were so scared that they lost consciousness, and the 3rd disappeared and she assumes that he has the hairpin. The main character says that 6 months have already passed and she has probably already left the city. The girl replies that no, because when she absorbed some soul power, she could approximately determine the location. Although the location was very vague, he was 100% in the city. Fan Nin says with a smile on his face that at least they have a direction. He suggests we start looking for this hairpin thief. He adds that after they find him and regain their strength, they will return to school and continue filming the video and find out the truth of this place. The girl clenches her hands into fists, agrees and says that they will come back and have a delicious meal. The main character reaches out to the phone. He says that he will first look into information about the tomb robbers before it is too late. The main character receives a notification on his smartphone and pays attention to it. The main character assumes that this is news from director Van and he is editing the video. There is a notification from the police on your smartphone. Recently, there have been many cases of intentional injury in Haichin. They ask residents not to go out at night and to have someone accompany them. The police will try to find evidence and apprehend the criminal as quickly as possible. The main character, with a gloomy expression on his face, thought that something was wrong here. He could not imagine what kind of injury could be so serious that the police would warn about it en masse. He gets the feeling that the world is becoming more and more dangerous. The end of financial center, office building. A guy with stubble and a cigarette in his mouth leans on the table and scatters papers. The guy with stubble tells a guy with black hair tied in a ponytail that if they don't get a job, they'll starve. The guy in pants with straps passes behind him with a cup of tea and says that it seems to him that, with the exception of the order the day before yesterday from Mr. Fan Fin, they have received nothing else during all this time. The guy with the stubble gets up from his chair and throws his hat on the ground. He yells at the guy in the strappy pants not to talk about the night they almost all died. He adds that even now, when he thinks about that day, his hair stands on end. A guy with black hair asks 2 colleagues what they think about finishing work this month and resigning like Senior Gao did yesterday. He adds that Van's director is, of course, very kind to them, but tells them to judge for themselves. The guy with stubble lies on the table and says that he feels that this month he can hardly pay the rent for his studio. Director Van opens the door. Van stands with a smartphone and loudly tells his workers to come to life. A guy with stubble is sitting at a computer, a guy with strappy pants is carrying papers, and a guy with black hair is looking at a document. A man with stubble asks the director what work is this time. The director slams his hand on the table and loudly says that he posted the resume in the work group, and this time they were given the task by Mr. Fan Ning from the day before yesterday. The guy with stubble gets scared. He asks if the director wants to go to some cemetery again to film a live broadcast. A man with stubble with two colleagues behind him tells his boss that he thinks life is more important than this job and begs him to disagree. The director waves his hand and says no, this time they just need to edit the video. Fan gives a thumbs up, his pupils looking like yuan. He says that a regular video editing costs 1,000 yuan, and if the video becomes popular, there will be additional reposts. The guy with stubble says that he has already downloaded it. He says that it looks like this is another video about ghosts, and if he doesn't hit the ghost like last time, then the video won't fly and will be too banal. 3 colleagues look at the monitor. The guy with the pants with straps says that this is so, because in the past the fact that he did not die in the video was taken down as the success of their team. But getting 1,000 yuan for editing is not enough. Van pushes the guy with stubble and shouts that this time everything is different and the video will definitely fly. He tells them to open up and look further. The main character loudly says that he found the treasure in the video. Van pressed a button on the keyboard. He says loudly that maybe this time their studio will be able to rise from the dead and this may shock all viewers. The main character in the video greeted the audience and said that it was now 1 in the morning and he was in the same abandoned Heiyuan elementary school. He said that each of them probably heard about the mysterious disappearance of a girl within the walls of this school 10 years ago. Noticing something, the guy with brown hair exclaimed in amazement. Pointing his finger at the screen, he said that the ridge was moving on its own. The guy he grabbed by the neck in fear demanded to let him go because he couldn't breathe. He smiled awkwardly and apologized. The guy with the stubble said displeasedly that he almost killed him. He asked what was scary about the moving comb. Looking at the screen and seeing a ghost woman, he screamed in fear. The guys behind him looked at the monitor in horror. The guy who fell on the floor asked how he did it. He asked if it was computer graphics and if there was any mechanism in the table. Van said, wiping his face with a handkerchief, that at first he thought the same thing. But then this ghost appeared and disappeared several more times. And the worst thing is that, with more than 10 years of video production experience, he cannot see traces of editing here. After watching the video to the end, the guy with stubble asked if this was the end. Van said that even though he had watched the video several times already, he still had the hair on his head scratching out of fear. The guy with the braces asked how Lion Zion died and who was behind it. He asked if the video was really related to the mysterious incident that happened 10 years ago. Van said he specifically went to the city library to look up information and reread newspapers from that year. He said the girl in the video looked a lot like the one in the photo. Smiling, he said that the original video, not yet edited, can attract the attention of many viewers, and he believes that once the video is completed and posted online, it will definitely become popular. Van said that Fan Nin said so, and if the video is popular, they will get their share. He said that if it turned out to be a success, he would give them a bonus. The guys exclaimed joyfully. They immediately set to work with enthusiasm. After 4 hours, the guy said he was done. He said that he made the title, improved the sound quality and added background music. Van, putting his hand on his shoulder, praised him for his excellent job and said that the video editing had become even scarier. Zhu said that the original video itself is not bad. He asked to see if there was anything else that needed to be changed. Van said there was no need for that. He told them to just save the video and send it to him that he uploaded from his account. The guy asked if it would be better to send the video to Fan Nin first to be sure. Van said with a thumbs up that this was not necessary, and Fan Nin said that he trusted their professionalism. He said that he had enough other things to do, so they would just finish editing and post it. Studio B headquarters. There were people working in the office sitting at the computer. Video review employee at Studio B, Tao Ping. Noticing the main character's video, he read the title out loud and asked if it was another adventure thriller. Tao Ping, pouring water from a teapot into a cup, said that there have been a lot of such videos lately, and most of them were simply made to increase popularity. He assumed this video was the same. Turning on the video, he opened his eyes and mouth. On the screen was the face of a terrible monster. Tao Ping spilled boiling water in surprise. Colleagues turned around at his cries that he was hot. While wiping the water off the table, Tao Ping said that this video is very exciting. Raising his hand, he told everyone to come up to him and watch this video. People gathered around him, asking if the video was interesting and saying that they hadn't seen him this excited in a long time. Tao Ping said this is an exception and he feels it will be a hit. The bald man raised an eyebrow and asked if that was true. Tao Ping, grinning, told them to see everything for themselves, and then they would understand. They watched the video in fear. The girl with blue hair said that she wants a sequel. The bald man said it was really good. Tao Ping asked if it was possible to get such stability and special effects by shooting with a regular mobile phone. He told them that he filmed it in real life and the special effects were just as good as the movies, which was almost too good. The bald man said that making such a video is quite difficult. He asked who its author was. Fan Ning yawned tiredly. He thought that he had followed her clues and checked the news, and 6 months ago, in a village located near the princess's tomb, someone had witnessed 3 strange people searching for something near that village. The police received complaints from villagers, resulting in the police arriving at the scene, but were only able to catch 2, and both were recorded as common tomb robbers. However, the third one disappeared somewhere. The 2 who were arrested claimed that they saw something terrible. In the end, the police justified this as a state of passion, and they were placed in a pre-trial detention center for stealing relics. But there are doubts about this. The police did not find any traces of soil laying near the princess's grave, and both parties, who knew what really happened there, ended up going crazy. Whether they dug something there or not still remains a mystery. Since they were able to take the hairpin away from her, it must be that they are not so simple. And it is not clear whether the third one managed to escape and then covered up the traces of the incident. Fan Ning frowned and said that he was afraid that there were other people behind these 3, perhaps related to the Heiyuan school. He asked Zhang Li if she was sure that the guy who stole her hairpin was somewhere here. Zhang Li said that they are already close. The main character, looking around worriedly, told her not to get out so easily, because there were people walking around here, and if they saw her, he wouldn't be able to explain it to them. Exhaling, he told her not to worry because he would let her out when no one was around. Fan Nin thought that it wasn't even dark yet, but there were very few people on the streets. He wondered if it was because of the police warning from the SMS, because they said that it was better not to go out at night. The main character asked Zhang Li where they were going. She indicated the direction with a small finger emerging from his hand. Turning around, the main character asked if it was here. In front of them was an alley blocked off with police tape, behind which there were several people. A crowd of people looked in shock at what was happening behind the police tape. There was a bottle of wine on the ground. Not far from it, the bones of a human hand were visible. The body of the guy in the yellow jacket looked like he had been skinned. The policeman said it was a terrible death. Someone said that since Officer Zhang is here, things are not that simple. Zhang asked Wang what he thought about the matter. Someone in the crowd asked why this man looked like a mummy after death. People in the crowd were talking about how this was the 3rd time this had happened, and public safety in this city had been getting worse and worse in recent years, and last month's case was also very strange. The main character pushed through the crowd. Zhang, noticing him, turned around. Wang, the policeman sitting next to the corpse, began to answer the question. Looking at the papers, he said that the deceased probably died about 3 o'clock yesterday morning, and there were no signs of a human attack, and no trace of the killer was found at the scene. He said the killer appeared to be very familiar with the location of nearby cameras and no suspicious persons were identified during the search investigation. Wang said that, as in the previous 2 cases, the cause of death was determined by the medical examiner to be sudden death due to heart failure. But the strangest thing was that several of the victims had no history of heart disease, according to investigators. Zhang said that he was asking based on the situation on the ground. Wang said he thinks this is a case of serial killings and these are not random killings. He said he definitely avoided all cameras and there were no traces of contact with the deceased at the scene. Zhang said that, however, the deceased did not show any signs of poisoning and it appears to have died naturally. But the appearance of the body is similar to a mummy, so the possibility of natural death is eliminated. He asked me to think about it again. Wang, embarrassedly scratching the back of his head, said that nothing else came to his mind, and the killer, like a ghost, left no traces. He exclaimed, "Maybe it really is a ghost." Zhang, with a hand on his shoulder, told him to rule out all the impossible options, even though they had no other explanation. He said he has asked the higher authorities to issue this nationwide notice warning most residents to avoid traveling at night, and they can leave the rest to other departments. Zhang called him to go and said that this world is not as simple as he thinks. A crescent moon shone in the night sky above an abandoned building. The guy lit a candle in a dark corridor full of skulls and stone fragments. Holding the hairpin in his hands, he told his master that the time had come. The candle went out. A huge face appeared in front of him, whose head was covered with huge red eyes. Licking his lips, the monster said that it was time to hunt again. The guy said that it was already night and they could go hunting at any time. The monster grinned and praised him, shrinking and hugging him from behind. He said that it was not in vain that he chose him out of the three. The guy said in fear that this was a blessing for him. The monster said that with his help the police would not be able to find them. He said that this king has this conquerable Horcrux in his hands. The hairpin floated in the air, and the monster said that it was easy for a level 4 soul to handle, not to mention fragile people. He said that by the time the slow soul hunters come, they will leave this place. The guy put on the hood, and the monster said that today was the last night. The hairpin above the guy's hand glowed with a red aura, and the monster announced the start of the hunt. The neon sign glowed blue. The main character asked Zhongli if she found anything. She said no because her aura became blurry. Fan Nin said about the corpse she led him to. Zhongli said that it must be the work of that person because the smell of her high heels came from the corpse. Pointing her finger to the side, she exclaimed that she felt it somewhere there. Fan Nin saw a lot of people and asked who exactly had the hairpin. Zhongli said that she doesn't know because her perception is a little blurry, but it must be among them. Rushing from his seat, the main character shouted to the waiter that he did not need change. The waiter looked at the bill lying on the table. Cursing, he said that he didn't order anything, just drank boiled water, sat there for hours without talking, and then left, leaving this dollar before leaving. He asked how there could be such stingy people in this world. Fan Ning, pushing through the crowd, asked in his mind if she could still sense his whereabouts. They ended up in a nightclub and Zhongli said no because there were too many people and it was disturbing her perception. The main character said that he would try to test everyone, and she should feel it when she was nearby. A girl with red hair in a black dress drew attention to him. Pressing on him, she called him handsome and asked if he would like to have a drink with her. Touching his face, the girl suggested that they have a drink and then go somewhere else and talk about life in private. Fan Nin grabbed her shoulders and apologized and said that he had things to do. The girl told him not to be shy. The ghostly hand pinched the main character with displeasure. He cried out in pain and reflexively pushed the girl away. People turned around, asking if there had been some kind of quarrel. The girl fell to the floor. Many strong men in suits appeared in front of Fan Ning and told him that he was brave for daring to come to them and make a mess. The main character said it was a misunderstanding. He asked not to do anything, otherwise he would not be able to restrain himself. The man said that he would not shed tears when he saw the coffin. He was not old, and his tone was not young. He asked the men to accompany him because they needed to talk. The burly man placed a hand on his shoulder, and Fan Nin frowned nervously. Suddenly he grabbed the man's wrist. Putting him on the floor, he twisted his arm behind his back. The main character was surrounded by men in suits. The man in dark glasses sarcastically patted his palms and said that this was not bad. He said this is not the place to go wild. Zhongli telepathically said that these people annoy her. She asked why he didn't let her help kill them all. The main character asked her not to create problems for him because he didn't want to go to prison. Two guys behind him swung steel bats. A fat, drunk man was walking down a dark alley, saying that now things were getting really difficult, and they couldn't even agree without drinking more. He said he didn't know until the very end whether it would work or not, and he was sorry he drank so much. The man said that he needed to return home quickly because he was expecting a child. He crashed into a guy in a red jacket and white hood. The man thanked him awkwardly. The guy in the jacket helped him walk, and the man told him when he was free, be sure to come and sit at his house, and he would have a good time at his place. The guy with an evil grin said that he would have such a chance. The man, catching the hairpin, asked in bewilderment what he was talking about. The guy whispered in his ear to go straight down this alley, and then he could return home. The man's eyes glowed red. The man, in a state of trance, walked in the indicated direction, and the guy bowed and said that dinner was served. Behind the man was a monster covered in eyes and drooling. The man came to his senses in amazement. Touching the brick wall, he asked why there was a dead end. Small black ghostly hands grabbed his arms and legs. The monster that appeared in front of his face said that it was natural because this was the place of his death. The man, his eyes bulging, exclaimed in horror. Dark red energy entered the man's mouth. The monster, enveloped in dark energy, laughed evilly. Green soul energy began to flow out of the man's body. The monster, absorbing his energy, said that by eating him, this king could break through and become a 4th-level soul. The man screamed in horror. Looking up, he wondered if he was going to die. Fan Nin, who suddenly appeared here, kicked the monster in the face and told him to leave him alone. The monster flew several meters, bouncing off the ground. When he hit the wall, he raised a large cloud of dust. The man, covered in bruises, sat on the ground with his arm around his neck. The main character waved his hand with a grin. Turning around, he asked the man if he was okay. The man cleared his throat and tried to say that he was fine. Falling to the ground from powerlessness, he said thank you. The main character asked Zhongli if she was sure. She said that he definitely had the hairpin. In front of Fan Ning, dark energy swirled in the air, and the monster asked who he was. He said that he didn't expect the soul hunter to react so quickly this time. The monster asked if he knew who he had angered. He told him to go away and let him eat that fat guy and he could forgive him for his mistake. Fan Ning gave him the middle finger and asked how dare he maliciously harm people in broad daylight. He said he couldn't just sit back and watch. The monster said that he does not know what his status is among the soul hunters. However, if he does not recognize the good years and seeks his own death, then he will kill him too. He asked if a teacher taught him. Dark red energy enveloped Fan Ning. Exclaiming that it was disgusting, he asked what it was. The monster told him to just die a miserable death from his techniques and soul. He asked him who told him to offend someone he shouldn't. A ghostly hand appeared from Fan Ning's chest, raising its index finger upward. The bonds of dark energy dissipated around him and he thought it was disgusting. The monster exclaimed in shock that this was impossible. He asked how he was able to break his soul technique. The main character, shrouded in a yellow aura, said that it was natural because he was more handsome. Jumping forward, he said that it was his turn. Fan Ning punched, and the monster dissipated into the air and fled, saying that it would come back. Landing on the wall, the main character thought that he was a coward. Zhongli rushed forward and sucked the monster's energy inside. Licking her lips, she said it was delicious. The monster asked in fear who she was. He thought that she had just taken away the soul power that he had gained from killing people for over half a year, and his spiritual skills were also ineffective against them, so he could only escape first. Raising his hand, Fan Ning shouted at him to just return what he stole. The monster fearfully dodged his grasp, soaring higher in the air. The main character raised his hand, shrouded in yellow energy, and said that if he did not give it up, then they would take it from him themselves. A beam of yellow energy hit the monster onto the ground with force. The main character stepped on his stomach with his boot. He telepathically asked Zhongli what they should do next. She told him to just let her consume him. Zhongli extended her hand to the frightened monster. The monster thrust his hand, shrouded in green energy, inside his body. Pointing a hairpin at her, from which a beam of green energy emerged, he told her to leave him alone. Fan Ning and Zhongli dodged the surprise attack. They looked at the ground where the dark energy began to dissolve. The policeman, shining a flashlight at the main character, told him to raise his hands up and not move. Zhongli returned to the main character's body. The policeman grabbed Fan Ning's head. Laying him down, he asked if he had heard him being told to raise his hands. After lifting the main character to his feet and grabbing him from behind, Wang said that he had caught the criminal. Zhang looked at them with a frown, pointing his gun at them. After holstering the gun, he shook his head and told him to let it go because it wasn't him. After releasing Fan Ning, Wang exclaimed in amazement. The main character shook off the dust. Pointing his finger at the man lying on the ground, Wang said that the marks on the man's body were exactly the same as those of previous deceased people. He was asked if he is not a criminal, then who? Fan Ning smiled awkwardly and said that he was a good citizen, and good people should not be wrongly blamed. Zhang asked if there were any traces of other people around previous cases. Wang said no. Zhang, pointing to the CCTV camera, said that the camera could record the entrance to the alley, and it certainly captured it. He said that a killer who leaves no traces would not make such a small mistake, let alone be caught so easily. Zhang asked if he understood this. Wang cursed, punched the wall and asked if they would allow him to continue committing crimes. He asked the main character who he is and why he is here. The man, struggling to his feet, told him that he was his savior. Wang, surprised that he was still alive, asked if he remembered what happened here and if he knew this criminal's first victim. The man staggered wearily, trying to remember and understand what had just happened. He lost consciousness, and Wang, having caught him, demanded through the radio that they call support because they needed an ambulance. Zhang asked the main character if he was a soul hunter. Fan Ning asked about soul hunters. He thought about how the ghost child seemed to have just mentioned this, and this is an official organization that deals with such paranormal activities. The protagonist decided to deceive him first because Zhongli, and he might also become targets for their elimination, and he had better be careful. He nervously started to say something, but Zhang said that it seemed like he had never heard of soul hunters. He asked if it was self-awakened. Throwing the cigarette on the ground, Zhang told him not to be so surprised, and he was still young, and his thoughts were written on his face. After handing over the business card, he said that the next time he wanted to lie, He'd best pay attention to controlling his eyes and micro-expressions. Fan Ning read the name on the card out loud, and Zhang said that it was his name. He told him to call him if he had any problems in the future. Exhaling heavily, he told him to be careful when dealing with such things. The main character thanked him with a smile. He walked deeper into the dark alley, and Zhang, looking after him, said with a slight smile that he was an interesting guy. A human silhouette was visible on the roof behind him. The guy in the red jacket held the monster in his arms. He said in disappointment that they had so easily taken away the soul power he had worked on for so long. The monster, gritting his teeth, said that they would go to another city. It was hiding inside his body, and the guy obeyed, frowning. Pushing off from the stone floor, he jumped down from the roof and began to fall. Fan Ning ran down the street, stepping into puddles. He asked Zhongli if she still sensed the location of the hairpin. She said he was ahead and he was wounded and wouldn't be able to run far. The main character asked that she should now have a chance to catch this ghost. He asked why she hid. Zhongli sat on his shoulder and said that this middle-aged man had a lot of yan energy, and it could not appear in front of him. The main character asked what kind of power this ghost has. He spoke about the black mud from which he could not get out on his own. Zhongli said that it is spiritual power, and he can use soul power or spiritual power to break it, but he needs to be much stronger than the caster. Fan Ning raised his eyebrows and asked about spiritual power. Zhongli said that he used spiritual energy before, and only the soul body has soul power, and spiritual power exists in everyone's body. Waving her hands, she said that for most people, it only works when they are on the verge of life and death, and only then there is a small chance that the spiritual power of the body can be released and manifest far beyond the normal power. The main character asked how she knew these things if she had lost her memory. Zhongli said that after eating delicious food for the past 2 days, it seemed like she was able to remember something. Fan Ning thought that it seemed that with his strength restored, Zhongli's memory had also recovered a little. He asked if he couldn't get out because he didn't have enough spiritual power. Zhongli said that the spiritual power in his body should have far surpassed hers due to the increase in her soul power. But his use of spiritual energy is too simple, and it only subconsciously increases his strength and speed. She said that in order to break this soul skill, he needed to mobilize the spiritual power in his body and release it. The main character, looking at his palms, asked how to do this. Zhongli said that it usually takes a long time to use and practice. She exclaimed that she had an idea. Clutching Fan Ning, Zhongli asked him not to move. She kissed him on the lips, and the main character widened his eyes in surprise. The two of them plunged under the water, illuminated by the bright sun. Fan Ning asked where he was. Zhongli said that this is his sea of consciousness, which is the spiritual world. She said that they made an agreement, and while the relationship deepens, she can come here with him. The main character asked what they were doing here, because they had to hurry before the ghost ran far away. Hugging him from behind, Zhongli told him not to worry, because in the sea of consciousness, the speed of time was 1/10,000th of the speed of time in the outside world, and he would not be able to escape them. She said that here she would teach him how to use energy. Clothes disappeared from their bodies, and the protagonist, in amazement and confusion, asked what was happening. Zhongli frowned and said that the clothes would greatly affect his perception of spiritual energy, so she took them off. She told him to close his eyes and feel that the movement of spiritual energy begins with Danshan. Zhongli touched his stomach and told him to follow the direction of her finger and try to mobilize his spiritual energy. Fan Ning sat in the lotus position as a yellow light enveloped them. He stood in a dark alley, eyes closed, enveloped in a yellow aura. The main character opened his eyes, burning with yellow light. Bent down, he said, "Now I understand." Rising high above the ground in one leap, he said that this was spiritual power. Zhongli appeared from his shoulder and pointed to the side. He saw the silhouette of a man jumping between buildings. It was a guy in a red jacket. The monster told him to quickly leave here. The guy asked if this soul hunter was that strong. The monster said that if it weren't for the hidden being inside him, he would have died of suffocation because of this king's power. He said that it was a level 5 soul or even higher. The monster demanded that he take it away from here as quickly as possible, because the feeling of danger seemed to be approaching. The guy sank to the ground next to the motorcycle. He told him not to worry because there were spiritual barriers in their base, and if that soul hunter dared to come, he would never return. The guy turned the ignition key. In amazement and fear they heard a voice, "Now it's clear." He said that he relied on a living person and acted separately, so he evaded police pursuit. Sitting at a traffic light, Fan Nin asked with a smile that he must be the tomb robber who escaped from the princess's grave. Rubbing his chin, he said that he remembered him and he was wanted. The guy frowned and clenched his teeth. With a wave of yellow energy, Fan Nin landed on the ground in front of him. The monster pointed his finger at him and told him not to bully others too much. The guy took a knife in his hand. The main character, glowing with yellow energy, asked if he thought they would do the same to him when he took the lives of others at will. He said that if he gave them the hairpin, it would give him a quick death. The ghost, grinning evilly, put his hand into his body and said that he, of course, wanted to take away the thing of this king. Taking a hairpin shrouded in green energy in his hand, he said that if he wanted it so bad, then he would grant his wish. Black mud surrounded Fan Ning. The ghost, standing on the dark dragon, asked how he dared to provoke him. He said it cost him most of his original strength. A ball of mud with eyes enveloped the main character, and the ghost said that there was still a soul body in his body, and today he would make his life worse than death. The eyes on the mud sphere twitched in surprise. The main character, hitting with a pulse of yellow energy, scattered the dirt around him. The ghost asked in amazement how this was possible, since he was able to break through his power. The dark dragon charged and the ghost told him to die. Fan Ning swung his fist shrouded in yellow energy. A stream of yellow energy dissipated the ghost's attack, cutting right through it. The ghost exclaimed in despair and amazement. Enveloping himself in black energy, he said that he was just a little man. Raising his hairpin up, he shouted that he would not lose to him. Fan Ning told Zhongli to finish him off, and she rushed forward. In front of Zhongli, something similar to a surface of water appeared, consisting of green energy. There was a huge explosion. The hairpin fell in the air, and the main character, holding out his hand to it, said that it was all over. He grabbed the hairpin in his hand and dark energy enveloped his wrists. The ghost told him not to think that everything would end so easily. Fan Ning exclaimed in amazement. Dark energy emanating from the ghost enveloped the main character. Zhongli appeared next to him and began to suck in dark energy. Stretching out his hand, the ghost shouted that this was his Horcrux and his hairpin. The protagonist, shrouded in a yellow aura, said that he had just used the power of the Zhongli hairpin to suppress it with difficulty, and now it was in his hand. Hitting him with a blast of yellow energy, he told him to repent for all his sins. The monster, dissolving into thin air, demanded that his Horcrux be returned to him, because this was his hope of becoming a fourth-level soul. His hand took on a human color and he said that he has not yet taken revenge. He still wants to become stronger, and he will not be able to reconcile. The ghost's face turned into the face of a small child and he asked where his mother was. Closing his eyes sadly, he said that he could not breathe underwater and was in great pain. The remnants of the ghost approached Fan Ning's head, saying that he had not found it yet. The main character closed his eyes, and the remains of the ghost entered his forehead. Fan Nin thought that these were fragments of his memories. He asked Zhongli if she knew what infanticide was. The main character said that due to the preference for sons over daughters, some parents give birth to children but do not raise them. Looking at the memory of a muscular man with a cruel expression dunking a child into the water, he said he couldn't understand it because they had drowned their own child with their own hands. Fan Nin said that he had just seen a part of his memory, and it was of a drowned child who was killed by his biological father shortly after birth. And due to resentment and the desire to survive, the child became a ghost. He said that all these dead people were a projection of his own father, and he wanted them to die as painfully as he did while alive. Fan Ning said that this was his way of venting his anger and dissatisfaction with this world. He thought about Zhongli, and what kind of obsession could make her exist for thousands of years, stay in the princess's tomb, and not want to leave. The guy waved his knife. The main character stopped his knife with 2 fingers and asked that the ghost he relied on had dissipated, but he still dared to act against him. The guy looked at him, trembling in fear, and Fan Ning said that he thought that he just took advantage of the chaos and ran away. He broke the knife blade in half with 2 fingers. The guy fell to the ground in fear, looking at the fragment of the knife in his hand. Clutching his head, he said that he had really killed him and he was finished because they would find him and kill him. The main character pressed the guy to the wall, grabbing him by the neck, and he begged him not to kill him. Fan Nin said that he will ask questions and he will answer them. The guy nodded fearfully. The main character let him go, folding his arms across his chest, and the guy fell to the ground. Fan Ning asked how he met this ghost. The guy said that he went to Changbeidao 6 months ago to find out information, and he said that he had a big order for him. Hanging his head, he said that he had no money at the time, and the price of this order was very generous. He said that he invited 2 acquaintances with him. The main character opened his eyes wide and asked who Changbeidao was. The guy said that he is a distributor of information in their industry. He said he has a wide range of channels and appears to be working for a large organization. The guy said that he knew where and what to dig, and thanks to him he always had a job. He said that this time their task was to dig up something from the princess's grave, and without saying anything, he would give him a seemingly ordinary jar. The guy said that he would only be able to open the jar when he reached the princess's grave, and the thing he was looking for would be found that way. When he returned, he opened the jar in advance at the hotel because he was curious about what was inside, and as a result, a ghost child appeared from the jar. The guy said it was terrible and it tormented him all night, even penetrating his body and thus taking over his mind. When he regained consciousness, he had already arrived at the princess's grave with his two old friends, and when he reached a certain place in the princess's grave, it left his body and then disappeared. The guy told the whole story to his companions and they decided to take advantage of his absence to escape, and as he was about to escape, he came out of the ground with a hairpin and attached it to him. At the same time, countless ghosts appeared from all directions and began to attack them. The guy didn't want to die, and later, when he agreed to hunt with him, he helped him escape. But two of his comrades were dragged deep into the forest by ghosts, and later he saw on the news how they went crazy and were arrested. The guy said he made him do these things by promising him riches and avoiding the cops. He said that if he didn't help him hunt, he would kill him, and he could only cooperate with him because he wanted to live. The guy shouted that he wanted to raise money for his seriously ill son. He said with tears on his face that he was still waiting for him and he couldn't die. The main character said that he is the one who carries it with him on hunts, and he is his accomplice. He asked if he said he couldn't die, did these people deserve to die? He said that they also have their own children and relatives, and now they suffer more than he does. Bowing his head to the ground, the guy said that he was to blame. He asked him to forgive him, not to kill him and not to hand him over to the police. Raising his head, he said that he accepted that he had made an unforgivable mistake and had caused harm to many families and people. But his son was seriously ill, and he needed to raise money for him. The guy said that his mother died and he was left alone. Grabbing him by the collar, Fan Nin told him not to apologize to him. He asked if he sympathized with the families of the victims and if he understood his guilt. The main character asked where Chang Beidao was and how they contacted him every time. The guy said that Chang Beidao has always been mysterious and its location is unpredictable. He said he outsources most of the tasks online and their goods are delivered to the designated location and funds are transferred to overseas accounts. The guy said that when they need him to show up, they wait for him to come to them, and they never know where he is. Fan Ning told him to give him his phone. He said his name was Fan Nin and this was his contact information. He told him to contact him the next time Chang Beidao appears. The main character threw the phone into his hands. The guy asked if he was letting him go and if he was going to call the police to arrest him. Jiang Li entered the body of the main character and he said that without the help of the ghost child, he will soon be caught. And before that, if he wants to save his son, he must do it as soon as possible. He said that for the victims' families, the child's ghost should give him more than just money for his son's treatment. The guy bowed, thanked him and said that he knew how to do it. Fan Nin frowned as he left and said that since the source of evil had disappeared, he should take the right path. The guy rose to his feet in shock, and the main character told him not to allow himself to follow the old path. The wind blew, and the guy looked after it. Smiling, he thanked him and said that after he finished what he had to do, he would give up. Fan Nin asked Jiang Li if she thought he did the right thing. He said that although he had his difficulties, he still caused harm to so many people. Remembering how he cried as a child, the main character said that he did not want his children to experience the same thing. Jiang Li said, since he has already made a decision, then there is no need to think about it. She said that he had become so strong in such a short time, and such a powerful ghost had been defeated. Jiang Li hugged him and said that he also thoughtfully helped her find her hair clip and he did a great job. She said that she wanted to thank him for this. Fan Nin smiled awkwardly and said that there was no need for this because he himself was interested in returning the hairpin to her. He asked what she thought about Chang Beidao. Jiang Li closed her eyes, rubbing her chin, and was lost in thought. Smiling, she said, nothing. The main character asked why she thought about it for so long. He said there was nothing he could do about it and put his hands on the back of her head. Jiang Li glanced at him. Before her eyes was her husband from her old life, a guy similar in appearance to Fan Nin but with long hair, who told her that he bought this hairpin especially for her. Jiang Li stood in front of him, wearing a red wedding dress. Fan Nin asked her if she liked it. Tears began to flow from Jiang Li's eyes. She said thank you, and the main character opened his eyes wide. Jiang Li said with a sincere smile that she really liked it. Drops hit the water surface. A vortex of green energy enveloped Jiang Li. Energy enveloped the hairpin, tearing her clothes. Soon, all the clothes on Jiang Li's body were torn. The main character asked if she was going to take off all his clothes again. A red dress appeared on Zhongli's body. Her bare feet touched the ground. She stood in front of the main character in a red and white dress that fluttered from the flow of energy. Zhongli opened her eyes, and yellow energy flashed in her forehead. The yellow aura enveloped Fan Nin, and he thought that it was a huge aura, and he felt like there was more inside him than ever before. He closed his eyes, clenching his fists. The main character screamed, and a stream of yellow energy rushed upward. Two people on the roof of a tall building, on which the fallen ghosts were dissolving, looked at the pillar of yellow light. The girl with red hair said that there is a lot of spiritual power there. The man in the black t-shirt scratched his head and said that this hesitation was very strange, and this was definitely not one of them. He asked why don't they go and have a look after they clean up this trash. The monster's paw touched the glass behind them. Many monsters of different types and sizes appeared in front of them. They rushed to attack the girl, whose hand was shrouded in red energy. A spear appeared in her hand and she turned around. Swinging her spear, the girl cut the monsters into pieces. A tall, dark-looking skyscraper. Two people were looking at the yellow pillar of light. Behind them a man in a white shirt was sitting on his knees. The Deep Dolphin, a strong man with blonde hair and a black beard, said that the breath of the ghost child had disappeared. He asked if it was a soul hunter. He said that he told him not to be so arrogant. Chang Beidao told him to forget about it, because it is just an experiment, and if it dies, it dies. But the specific circumstances and who took the action are yet to be determined. He said that, otherwise, he would have nothing to answer him. Chang Beidao called him along and said that they had nothing more to ask him, and they would get rid of him. The Deep Dolphin pointed his palm at the trembling shirtless man with an ominous grin. A red aura lifted him into the air, and the man fearfully asked not to kill him. He asked if he didn't say that he would let him go when he answered all his questions. The Deep Dolphin said with an evil smile that he lied to him. The man's neck spun around full circle several times, killing him. The man fell to the ground and the Deep Dolphin turned away. There was a cigarette lying on the paving slabs. Zhang looked in amazement at the pillar of light towering over the buildings. Wang asked if something had happened and if there was anything there. Zhang said that everything was fine and he seemed to have forgotten something. He told him to go back and rest first. Wang, scratching his head, said that they would see each other tomorrow at the police station. He asked what was happening. Fan Ning bulged his eyes, breathing heavily. Dropping to one knee, he thought it was so dangerous that he felt like he was about to burst. Zhongli said that they need to go because someone is coming here. The main character obeyed. Green energy flew into the window of a residential building. Fan Ning, closing the curtains, said that this beam of light flew up very high. He asked if it would be published in the newspaper tomorrow. Zhongli said no, because if the spiritual energy did not condense into a solid, then ordinary people would not be able to see it. The main character sat on the bed and asked why the amount of spiritual energy was so great this time. Zhongli said that a small portion must be absorbed by the spirit child's soul power, and the larger portion must be stored in her hairpin before its power is lost. She said it was probably 1/10 of her peak strength. Fan Nin, petrified with shock, thought how strong Zhongli was in its heyday if it was only 1/10. Getting up, he asked if her memory had been restored and if she remembered anything. Zhongli grabbed her head. The main character patted her on the head and said that if she couldn't remember, then the time had not come yet. Hugging him, Zhongli said that no matter what happens, she will always be by his side. Noticing the alert, they glanced at his phone screen. Fan wrote to him about their video blowing up. Exclaiming, Fan Nin immediately sat down at the computer. Looking at his video, he exclaimed that only 3 hours have passed since the video was released, and it already has 1 million views. People in the comments actively discussed the content of the video, and the main character said that this video is very popular now. He said it was even more popular than the previous video. Fan Nin thought that now he could advertise, sell products, and do live broadcasts. While he was wallowing in fantasies of wealth, Zhongli asked him to look here. The main character looked around in bewilderment. Emerging from his chest, Zhongli told him to look inside the sea of consciousness. They again plunged into the sea of consciousness. Noticing something, Fan Nin exclaimed in amazement. In front of them was a multitude of yellow energy nearby. Zhongli said that they are all powers of fear, and there is a lot of power in fear. Snuggled up behind him, she told him to close his eyes. Fan Nin closed his eyes and the clothes disappeared from their bodies again. The fish circled around them, swimming into the body of the main character. Fan Ning sat in the lotus position, enveloped in a whirlwind of energy. Eyes widening, he thought it was the power of fear, and it must be caused by this recently released popular video. Clenching his fist, the protagonist thought that he now felt that he could easily defeat the ghost child without the help of Zhongli. As he rose to his feet, he thought that a lot had happened today. He thought about the soul of a dead child, a soul hunter, the mysterious policeman Jiang Li's lost memory, and the existence of a mysterious organization that wants to attack the princess's grave. Fan Nin, standing in the shower, thought that a completely new world had begun, and this was more exciting, but also more dangerous, because he had already signed a contract and could not return. Frowning and smiling resolutely, he thought that he would definitely survive and find. Jiang Li looked at the sleeping Fan Ning. She put her hand on his head. Suddenly the clothes disappeared from her body. Jiang Li lay down on the bed next to him. Smiling with tears in her eyes, she said that after more than 1,000 years, she had finally waited for him. Jiang Li hugged the main character, pressing her chest against him. Fan Ning, who was sleeping restlessly, frowned. There was a terrible grimace before his eyes. Little Fan Ning stood in front of a huge fire in which people were burning. His eyes glowed red and he turned around with a crazy smile on his face. The morning sun was shining over the apartment building. The guy with blonde hair, wearing a blue sweater, was brushing his teeth while looking in the mirror. Noticing the notifications on his phone, he looked at it in amazement. Looking at his phone, the guy thought that there was suddenly too much news in the morning. He then exclaimed in amazement that his video had dropped to second place, and a video posted by a newcomer last night had made it to the top. Clutching his head, the guy thought how he could get more than 3 million views in one night, because he was the most popular. He swung open the door to his room with an epic pose. The guy put on his headphones, blazing with interest, and said that he wanted to see what kind of work this guy had done, because he could really beat him. The clock showed 10 o'clock in the morning. The guy leaned back in his chair and thought that this was the end. And this video was very good. He thought it wasn't surprising that it got so many views overnight. The guy wrote a comment under the video saying that he wants to quickly see the next episode, because he also wants to know what happened to Lion Zion. With a grin resting his face on his palm, he said that he wanted to add even more fuel to his enthusiasm, and there are a lot of talented people in this generation. Comments under the video continued to appear actively. The bright morning sun was shining through the window. The main character was sleeping in the bed next to Jiang Li. She lay in his arms. Fan Nin had a dream about steamed buns and rice cakes, eating dishes one after another in a dream. He said that it was very tasty. Noticing something, he raised his head. The main character exclaimed that this rice cake is very soft and smooth, and it must be very tasty. Opening his eyes, he wondered if he was dreaming, because this dream seemed very real. Fan Ning squeezed the rice cake in his hand. Opening his eyes, he said that this was the same feeling. Looking ahead, the protagonist was amazed to find that he was touching a blushing Jiang Li. Jumping up in bed, he screamed loudly. Rubbing her eyes, Jiang Li asked if he was awake. A fountain of blood gushed out from Fan Ning's nose and he fell to the floor. Jiang Li approached him worriedly. The main character asked her not to move, covering her nose with her palm. He quickly ran to the table. Jiang Li looked in bewilderment as Fan Ning took out tissues from the box. Closing his nostrils with napkins, he shouted at her to get dressed. Jiang Li puffed out her cheeks in disappointment. A green aura enveloped her body. She told him that she was dressed. Fan Ning opened his eyes in amazement. He froze in place, not rising from his knee, looking at her. Jiang Li stood in front of the morning sun, dressed in a red dress with a white cape. The main character asked why she was no longer afraid of the sun. Twisting the hairpin in the air, Jiang Li said that she had regained some of her strength. The main character said that these clothes seemed to be different from the previous ones. Jiang Li tied up her hair and said that he said before that her long skirt was uncomfortable. Fan Ning thought that he had never heard of a ghost being able to come and go during the day before. He thought about what she really was. Rushing towards him with a hug, Jiang Li exclaimed that he liked it. The phone lying on the bed suddenly rang. Pushing Jiang Li aside, Fan Ning said that he needed to answer the phone. The name of Director Van was written on the phone screen. The main character picked up the phone and Van told him that their video was already at the top. The main character said that he had already seen this. Van winked and said that several companies had contacted them and wanted them to advertise in their next video. He said advertising fees alone amount to tens of thousands of dollars. Fan Nin told him not to rush to answer yet because they are new to this business. They only have 2 videos so far, and it is too early for them to lose the favor of their fans for temporary gain. He asked him if he had any experience working with streamers before. Van said yes, but he only has 20k followers, which is less than Fan Nin's overnight growth. He asked why he was asking. The main character, sitting on a computer chair, said that he could be very busy when filming videos, and he hoped to give them this account to manage it. He asked how about their long-term cooperation. Fan Nin said that he will do the video shooting and content creation, and they will do the editing and operation of the videos, and in this way they can increase the popularity of the account. Van exclaimed in amazement about the partnership. Scratching his head, he said that they were just a small studio, and given his current popularity and prospects, they were a little afraid. The main character said that everything was fine and he was very pleased with the 2 previous collaborations, and he also had a very good impression of the people in his studio. He asked if he would like to collaborate with him. Van said they are ready and they will do it. He offered to split the profits by 20%, then offered only 10%. Van said that if possible he would draw up a contract and send it to him. Fan Nin said that he would give them 30%. He said that while he was looking for a studio that could help him, everyone turned him down after hearing his price of 1,000 yuan. He said that at that time he only had this money. The main character said that when he was about to give up, he was the only one who answered him and they gave him enough respect and careful service. He said he was always grateful to them. Van, with tears on his face, said that this is what they should do, try their best to satisfy their customers, and this is what they have always done. He told him to rest assured that they would do everything they could to manage the account for him. The main character said that then he can send the contract to him later, because he has other things to do, and further management of this account will remain with them. He thought that it gave so much fear power was not surprising, and he did not know how much Jiang Li had recovered. Turning around, Fan Ning said, "Great." Jiang Li grabbed his hand and asked what happened. The main character asked if yesterday's fear was enough and if she could regain her strength. Jiang Li said that what they received yesterday was not as much as when they first met at the princess's tomb, and she was still far from fully recovered. Fan Nin asked how far it was. A sphere lightly filled with yellow liquid appeared in the air, and Jiang Li said that during its heyday, this sphere should have been full. The main character asked if there was still such a big difference. He asked how confident they were now that they could deal with the monster at Heiyuan Elementary School. Jiang Li said that this time the success rate is 100%. The main character put on his jacket and suggested that they eat first and then rest to gain strength. Putting his hair in a ponytail, he said that they would leave tonight and go to Heiyuan School. Jiang Li exclaimed happily that they would eat delicious food tonight. A crescent moon hung in the sky above the apartment building. Fan Nin adjusted the visor of his baseball cap. Opening the window, he told Jiang Li to get ready. She put her hand on his shoulder. They immediately flew forward, leaving the baseball cap at home, and the main character asked why so abruptly. 2 guys were peeking out from behind a tree, and the guy in the white shirt asked Jan, the man in the blue shirt, if they really wanted to record a video here. Jan, hitting him on the head, told him that he saw that video in the top. Raising his fist in the air, he said that this is the very place where he shot the video, and they can tell at a glance that the popularity and traffic is right in front of them. He asked if they couldn't catch the wave of hype. The guy, rubbing the back of his head, said that there was a ghost inside. Placing his hand on his shoulder, Jan said with a smile that it was fake, and it was probably synthesized using software and filmed using various mechanisms, because now there are a lot of similar supernatural videos on the internet. He asked if he thought ghosts really existed. Someone put a hand on his shoulder, and they turned around in horror. It was a girl with short blonde hair, and the guys started running away in horror. Folding her arms across her chest, she sternly asked if they had agreed to meet at the entrance of Heiyuan Elementary School. She asked why they thought she was a ghost. The girl told them that they were 2 cowards, and if they were scared, they could go home. She pulled them to their feet, and Jan told them not to tell him that the abandoned and deserted area still gave people rashes at night. The guy in the white t-shirt told the girl that this video was produced using machinery and such, and the video editing and special effects were really good. He said that they had not prepared anything this time, and they would not be able to compare with others. The girl angrily asked where they would get the money for such special effects. She said they were only here to scout. Looking at the notebook, she asked what they thought about calling their video exposing the illusion of the most popular video and the real situation at Heiyuan Elementary School. Jan said that she deserves to have more fans. Putting her hand forward, the girl said to stop flattering her and go forward. The guy in the white t-shirt said to listen carefully because there seemed to be a sound coming from behind. Turning around, they saw 2 approaching silhouettes. The guys shouted in horror that it was a ghost. They frightenedly climbed onto the girl's back, and she said that 2 grown men were even less brave than a girl like her. Jan said that they are certainly not ghosts, because they do not exist. The girl, smiling, turned to the main character and apologized for the fact that her 2 friends were relatively timid. She asked if they were okay. Fan Nin asked who they were. Jan rubbed the back of his head and said that they were vloggers and they came here to take a look at Heiyuan Elementary School. which was in the hot search. He said they wanted to see if they could make some interesting videos. He said his name was Jan Zio, and station IDC was Edible Potato. The guy in the white t-shirt said his name was Mao Xing and he was his assistant. The girl said her name was Ling Huan and she was their eldest. She said she currently works in the live broadcast area at Station C and mainly focuses on food and outdoor research. Mao Xing exclaimed that he was the same blogger. Jan asked if he knew him. Mao Xing said that this is the one with the most popular search title and the title of the strongest rookie in Station B this year. He asked if they didn't come here only after watching his video. Ling Huan exclaimed that the video was popular and she only moved to Station B because of it. Exclaiming that it was a surprise meeting, she asked if he could give her an autograph. Noticing Zhang Li, she said that she also appeared in the video. Ling Huan asked if they were a couple. The protagonist's gaze met Zhang Li, and he embarrassedly said that she was his wife. While returning the notebook to her, he said that if they wanted to watch the live broadcast or video of Heiyuan Elementary School, he advised them to come back tomorrow afternoon. Chan said dissatisfiedly that his name is not written here, and not only he can shoot videos here. Fan Nin turned around and said that there were real ghosts in this place, and he was not joking. Turning around, he said that if they entered there at night, their lives would be in danger. Jan asked loudly if he thought they didn't know what special effects he used. He asked where these ghosts were, and if it was so dangerous, how did he get out of there last time, and why did he come back to film the video? He asked if he looked down on them. A strong wind blew, and the main character told them, if they did not want to die, to go down the mountain and return home as soon as possible. He said that he told them everything he had to say, and the decision to believe him or not was theirs. Mao Xing, opening his eyes, asked where the wind was coming from. Opening his eyes in amazement, he exclaimed that they had already entered. He assumed that they had come here to film a continuation of the video. Jan said that if they came to film the sequel and they followed them, secretly filmed the recording scene and posted the video, it would go viral. Mao Xing suggested that he forget about it. He said they talked about how it was dangerous inside and there might be some kind of traps there. He added that it is not good to interfere with other people's filming in this way. Ling Huan ran forward and said that she was just wondering how their videos were filmed. She said that she was going to watch because next time she wouldn't have such a good opportunity. Mao Xing shouted to wait for him. He passed through an invisible magical barrier. The Ling Huan group ran towards the entrance of the school. Fan Ning and Zhang Li walked down the corridor holding hands. The main character hoped that the three would listen to his words and leave, because if a fight broke out later, he would not be able to protect them. He asked Zhang Li if she could feel the breath of this ghost. Zhang Li said with a smile that he was upstairs, in the same room as last time. Throwing the phone to her, Fan Nin said, "Very good." He said with a smile that they would start recording. Zhang Li flew in the air next to him, filming him, and the main character told the audience that he was still at Heiyuan Elementary School. He said that 3 days ago, he met an unknown monster here, and at that moment, he had no choice but to retreat. But Lion Zion's soul is still locked in this school, waiting for him to save her. They came to the same office with a sign. Fan Nin kicked the door open and said that this was why he came back here. Entering the office, he thought that they were there. Zhang Li telepathically drew his attention to the comb on the table. The protagonist said that he believed that this comb must have been something that Lion Zion possessed during her life, and it is inextricably linked to her. He said that with this comb they might be able to figure something out. The crest flared with red energy and the ghost asked how he dared to return. The ghost of a man with a receding hairline who had faces on his fists told him to stay here because he had set up a barrier to prevent him from escaping. Raising his fist, Fan Nin said with a grin, "Nothing new." The fists of the ghost and the protagonist collided in impact. The ghost's hand dissipated into the air. He asked how he was able to become so strong in just a few days, and if he had hidden his strength before. The ghost said that he must surely be a soul hunter. Fan Ning waved his hand with a grin and said that he had always been strong. He said that if he couldn't beat him, he could go look for a solution. The ghost, cursing, asked if he was mocking him. The steel leg stepped onto the stone floor, breaking it with its weight. In front of the main character was what looked like a steel robot, and the ghost asked if he thought he could defeat it this way. He told him not to rejoice ahead of time. Electricity appeared in the ghost's hands and he said that the real battle would begin right now. Raising a huge sphere of electrical energy above his head, the ghost said that he would never, ever be able to separate him and Lion Zion, even if he was a soul hunter. Noticing the pressure around him, the main character asked if this was his skill. Jan introduced himself and greeted the audience. He said that right now they are at the entrance of the Heiyuan Primary School's teaching building, and everyone must have heard the story of this school. He was interrupted by the voice of a ghost who asked how he dared to return. They saw a purple explosion on the top floor of the building. Jan fell to the floor in fear, pointing his finger there. When they saw Fan Nin falling from the window, they knew it was him. Ling Huan exclaimed that this was a 5-story building, and he would definitely die if he fell. Jiang Li flew out of the window, shrouded in green energy. She caught the main character in her arms. The Ling Huan group watched in shock as Jiang Li landed with Fan Ning in her hands. Mao Xing asked Jan if it seemed to him or if they really had arrived. Nodding with a nervous grin, Jan said that it was all technology. Something quickly jumped out of the window of the upper floor of the school. The ghost robot landed in front of them, down on one knee. Mao Xing exclaimed that this could not be the use of wires. Ling Huan grabbed them by the collars and asked why don't they postpone this matter until later. The ghost said that none of them would leave today. Clenching his fist, he said that he would kill him for daring to touch his things. A purple barrier surrounded Heiyuan's school. Mao Xing said that they couldn't get out. Jan ran forward, telling him to step aside. He said he couldn't believe they couldn't get out. Jan hit the barrier and fell to the ground. He asked in fear if they would really die here. He said that if he had known about this earlier, he would have listened to him and not followed them. Ling Huan turned around and asked what was the point of talking about this now. She said that she hoped that he could defeat this monster and that it might be their only hope of getting out of here alive. The main character thought, it seems that dealing with this guy is not as easy as he thought. He wondered if this soul technique was some kind of electromagnetic or shock wave, or if it was a highly compressed air mass. The ghost, cursing, extended a palm shrouded in electricity towards him. Fan Nin, shrouded in a yellow aura, flew into the air. The ghost pushed off the ground. Jumping up, he swung his fist behind the main character. Fan Nin blocked his strike with his hands. Noticing the electricity engulfing his fist, he opened his eyes. An electrical impulse threw the main character aside. He landed on the ground, supporting himself with his hand. Frowning, Fan Nin thought that this guy was not so simple. The ghost said they would see how much more he could take. Jiang Li clicked her tongue and used her soul energy. 2 green circles appeared in the air, from which chains appeared. The ghost's fist stopped in front of Fan Ning's face. The ghost was shrouded in chains and said that he would kill him. The main character, spreading his arms, told him to try to kill him, because he was right in front of him. He asked why he was standing. The ghost fell to his knees, demanding to be released. Fan Nin patted his steel head and asked if he thought he was stupid. He said that as soon as he let him go, he would bite him like a mad dog. He asked why he didn't want to show him his true colors. The main character touched his forehead with his index finger and said that since he was tied to the director's office, he must be the one who died there. The steel robot turned into a middle-aged man, and Fan Nin asked director Jiang Chan if he killed Lion Zion. Jiang Chan said no in fear. He said that he did not want to kill her, and if she had not then tried to escape, he would not have taken action against her. Jiang Chan, with a crazy smile, shouted that it was her fault because she decided to run away. He asked if it would be better to stay with him. The main character punched him in the face and called him an animal. Grabbing him by the collar, he shouted that she was still very young, and he was old enough to be her father. He said she had her whole life ahead of her and he killed her. Fan Nin asked if he had a child. He told him to think about how hurt her parents were. Shaking his head from side to side, Jiang Chan asked him to shut up. Yellow energy was gathering in the protagonist's hand, and he told him to tell him where Lion Zion was, and then he would give him a quick death. Frowning and gritting his teeth, Jiang Chan said that he would not allow him to take Lion Zion away from him. Violet energy enveloped him, breaking the chains that bound him. Jiang Li shouted at him to be careful. Jiang Chan rushed forward and grabbed the main character. The impact raised a huge cloud of dust. Fan Nin was slammed into the wall. The main character telepathically asked Jiang Li what just happened. She said she didn't know, but it seemed his power had awakened again. Purple energy spread across the ground, and Jiang Chan shouted that no one could separate him and Lion Zion. 3 spheres of purple energy appeared in front of the main character. An explosion sounded, and Fan Nin wondered if he had really broken through. He thought that the villain dies in the plot because he talks too much, and he should be the villain. He thought maybe he was being too arrogant just now. Jiang Li grabbed the protagonist's wrist. She sent more chains forward. Jiang Chan, shrouded in a purple aura, pushed away the chains. Appearing next to her, he raised his fist with an evil smile and told her to get out of here. Fan Nin covered it with himself, crossing his arms in front of him. Jiang Chan's blow knocked him aside. Fan Ning hit the wall with force. Jiang Li asked if he was okay. She asked if maybe she should deal with him herself. The main character straightened up, wiping the blood from his face, and said that he was fine, and she should hide in his body so that the protection radius was smaller. Fan Nin thought that he had advanced during the fight and that was too much. He thought that he needed to think about how to defeat him. Shrouded in electricity, Jiang Chan raised 2 fingers and said that he wanted to leave it here forever. Explosions thundered, which the main character dodged with quick movements. He thought that he needed to run to the director's office because all the other places were blocked by a barrier. And if the breaking point existed, then it could only be there. Explosions from inside the school were visible from outside on every floor. There were spheres of purple energy in front of the protagonist, and he thought that this could not be avoided, but if he stopped now, he would no longer have another opportunity. Gritting his teeth, he said that he had to take the risk. Fan Ning pushed off the ground and jumped forward. He squinted at the spheres of violet energy as he flew past them. An explosion occurred, and the main character barely managed to avoid it. He thought it was dangerous and he needed to take advantage of it. The main character wondered where Lion Zion was. Frowning, he thought that if he thought about it carefully, Lion Zion only appeared in the director's office and appeared every time she was touched, and then she should still be in the director's office. Fan Ning entered the director's office, which had a hole in the wall. Jiang Chan followed him in and said that now he would not be able to escape. He said with an evil smile that not only he would die, but also the 3 people outside and the girl inside his body. He said that no one can break his connection with Lion Zion. The main character said with a grin that if he guessed correctly, he should have hidden it here. Jiang Chan's eyes widened in amazement. The main character swung his fist at the crest, and Jiang Chan tried to stop him. Fan Ning slammed his fist onto the crest, shrouded in yellow energy. A red magic circle appeared on the table and said that Lion Zion disappeared 10 years ago. She was last seen in the director's office, and it was here that he first met her soul. He said all signs point to one thing. Shrouded in blue light, the protagonist said that this means that there must be a secret space in the director's room, and this table is the node where the space opens up. Jiang Chan, waving his hands, shouted that he didn't care what they guessed, and he would never let him inside. Jiang Li, covering it with green magic, shouted to the main character to be careful. Jiang Chan slammed his hands, breaking her magic barrier. A sphere of electrical energy appeared in his hand and he said with an evil grin, "It's over." The main characters opened their mouths. There was an explosion. Jiang Chan stood with a grin among the dissipating smoke. Seeing something, he opened his eyes in amazement. In front of him were Fan Nin with Jiang Li in his arms, and he exclaimed that this couldn't be happening. The main characters entered a magical space. In the dark room was Lion Zion, chained. Seeing the magical portal, she raised her head. The main character and Jiang Li emerged from the portal. Lion Zion exclaimed happily. The main character walked towards her as Jiang Li turned towards the portal. She created a green circle of magic and Fan Nin said that he promised to help her and now he is here. He broke the chains that bound Lion Zion's body. The main character caught her in his hands. After breaking the green magic, Jiang Chan appeared in the room and angrily shouted not to touch it. Fan Ning said that he was here to destroy him today and then take Lion Zion. Jiang Chan smiled and told Lion Zion to be a good girl and come to him so that he could protect her. Lion Zion hid in fear behind the main character. Jiang Chan, widening his eyes in shock, asked if she really chose him. He clenched his teeth angrily and veins popped out on his face. Enveloped in bright purple energy, he asked why she chose him. The main characters shielded themselves from the bright light with their hands. Mao Xing said that right after they broke in, an explosion was heard, but now it became quiet. Jan assumed that the winner had been decided. He said that he hoped he was able to defeat that ghost, otherwise they would be in trouble. Ling Huan shouted for them to look inside because it seemed like someone was coming out. A stream of purple energy shot out through the main entrance of the school. Ling Huan staggered with empty eyes, surrounded by purple gas. The 3 of them were all lying on the ground unconscious. Jiang Chan shouted that no one could separate him at Lion Zion. He shouted to her since he wanted to leave him, die with them and stay here forever. Jiang Li, holding the magic barrier, said that there is something strange in this black fog, and it seems that something is absorbing their power. She said that she couldn't hold out much longer and they had to find a solution as soon as possible. Fan Ning asked Lion Zion if she knew what his weakness was. She said that his weak point is his chest, and now he is without the protection of spiritual armor, but it is almost impossible to get past these magical balls surrounding him. The main character, remembering how he held Jiang Li in his hands, shrouded in an orange aura, said that he could do it. He said he could get there if he was fast enough. Fan Nin rushed forward with inhuman speed and thought that these sensations were his soul magic. Jiang Chan sent purple energy forward and said with an evil smile that he was seeking death. Moving quickly from side to side, the main character dodged his attacks. Raising his fist, he said that they would see which of them would die. A stream of yellow energy pierced right through Jiang Chan's chest. Blood gushed out from Jiang Chan's mouth, and he asked with wide-eyed eyes how this was possible. The sphere of violet energy sparkled brightly. There was an explosion, from which the main character covered himself with his hand. Jiang Chan fell to his knees. Jiang Chan desperately begged Yang not to leave him, saying that everything was his fault. He extended his hand, disappearing into the air, towards Lion Zion. His face became human, and as he disappeared, he apologized to her with a sad face. Yellow energy entered Fan Ning's forehead, and Jiang Li absorbed the dark energy. Looking at the ghost's memories, the main character said that these were his wife and daughter. He said it looks like he was mistaken and his motive is not what he originally thought. Jiang Chan originally had a happy family, a beautiful daughter and a virtuous wife. Yang is his daughter's name. The car accident happened 15 years ago. He was pinned to the driver's seat by steel bars, and his wife and daughter were thrown out of the car by inertia. His entire family died before his eyes. Someone found him when Jiang Chan was in pain and despair. He was confused, damaging his worldview. They made up an insidious plan for him, telling him that he could resurrect his daughter. Turning to Lion Zion, Fan Nin said with a sad face that she was the vessel he wanted to use to resurrect his daughter, but his plan failed. He said that these people deceived him, and before his death, Jiang Chan thought that this was a ritual needed to resurrect his daughter. Lion Zion listened with her eyes wide in amazement, and the main character said that in fact, his daughter's soul had disappeared a long time ago, and when he found out the truth about all this, it was already too late, and he was locked here with her as a lonely soul. Kneeling down in front of her, Fan Nin said that, in fact, he later actually began to treat her as his daughter. But the previous series of emotional turmoil had driven his spirit to the point of madness, unable to control his emotions and becoming increasingly possessive. Lion Zion asked him if he knew news about her parents because she missed them very much. The main character said that after he left last time, he called the number listed in the missing persons report, but it was not in service, and then the police station told him that they were all dead. He said that perhaps they got sick from being too sad. Bowing, Lion Zion sincerely thanked them, calling them benefactors. Fan Nin, placing his hands on her shoulders, with a good-natured smile, told her not to call him a benefactor, but simply by his name, Fan Nin. Lion Zion suddenly frowned as if she was in pain. Her body became yellow and transparent, and the main character worriedly asked what was happening to her. Lion Zion apologized with a smile and said that it seemed like it would soon dissipate, and she actually didn't have much resentment. She said that her life was maintained by that person's soul power, and now that he has disappeared, it seems that even the soul power in her body can no longer hold on. Rising into the air, she said that he had nothing to worry about, because it was he who helped her free herself, and the opportunity to leave here was her long-standing desire. With a sincere smile, Lion Zion said that she was a little reluctant to disappear now, because she wanted to take a look at this beautiful world. But at least she wouldn't have to hurt people anymore. Fan Ning asked Jiang Li if they could help her in any way. Jiang Li said that she needed something that could connect with her and use a lot of spiritual power to protect her soul. Looking at the ridge, the main character said that this should work. A comb shrouded in a green aura rose above his hand. Fan Nin asked in frustration why nothing was happening. Lion Zion thanked him and said that they would see each other in the next life, if the afterlife really existed. She disappeared into the air, leaving behind only magical yellow particles. Having dropped the comb, the main character desperately fell to the ground, letting out a cry. With tears in his eyes, he apologized to her for breaking his promise, because he once said that he would save her. The comb lay on the stone floor. Suddenly, green energy enveloped him and he moved. The main character looked in amazement at the ridge that flew into the air in front of him. Jiang Li stood in front of him, shrouded in a green aura, and her hairpin hovered above her hands. In her hand were a comb and a very small Lion Zion. Fan Ning took the comb in his hand. Jiang Li frowned and said that since he wanted her to survive, she would find a way to do it. And she just gave her some of her original soul power. She said that, combined with the soul power gained just from the director's collapse, she should be able to maintain her existence. Hugging his hand, she said that her soul power is very weak right now and it will take some time to recover, so she can't go out yet. Jiang Li said that there is a small space inside the comb where she can practice. Fan Ning put the comb in his pocket. Jiang Li pinched the main character offendedly. Puffing out her cheeks, she said that she could save her for him, but in his eyes there could only be one. Fan Nin, screaming in pain, asked what she was talking about, because she was only 13 years old before her death, and he does not have strange hobbies. He suggested that they think of her as their sister. Taking Zhongli's hand, he thanked her with a smile. After leaving the ball of mud, she asked if it could be that the speed at which he was running earlier was the result of his own soul awakening. The main character said yes. They jumped out of the hole in the school, and he said that it seems to be a space-time ability that can slow down one's own time 1,000 times in an instant. And for a fraction of a second there is the ability to observe the surrounding environment. Time to coordinate the muscles of the whole body to develop the maximum possible speed that is theoretically possible to achieve. Upon landing, he said that it was just like in the game. Fanning said that the moment he took the initiative to use it, a voice in the sea of consciousness told him the name of this soul skill, which is very beautiful, 1,000-year dream. Zhongli mentally repeated the name. The main character, looking at the Ling Huan team lying on the ground, said that he warned these three. They did not listen to him, and the result was like this. He asked Zhongli if they were in any danger since the battle had not affected them. Zhongli said that several years of their lives have been consumed, but they are young and are in no danger except getting a headache later. The main character suggested pushing them outside the school gates in case there were still formations left. He noticed the phone, which was recording video, lying next to Mao Xing. Ling Huan, Jan and Mao Xing were lying unconscious outside the Heiyuan primary school. The main characters returned home through the window. Fanning fell on the bed and said that it seemed that after he met Zhongli, his daily routine was completely disrupted. The clothes disappeared from Zhongli's body, and she flew to the bed with the intention of going to bed. The main character, closing his eyes in embarrassment, stopped her. He started rummaging through the drawer of clothes. Putting the blanket on the bed, he said that it would be better if they slept under different blankets. Frowning, Zhongli puffed out her cheeks resentfully. Fanning wrapped himself in a blanket and said that he would go to bed first. He thought that he could finally sleep peacefully. Zhongli, wrapped in another blanket, lay down next to him, pressing her face to his back. The morning sun was shining over Heiyuan School. Ling Huan slowly opened her eyes as she woke up. Slapping Jan and Mao Xing on the cheeks, she shouted at them to wake up. Mao Xing asked if breakfast was ready. Ling Huan hit him on the head and shouted that they almost died. Looking at the entrance to the school, she thought about them being rescued and what happened yesterday. Remembering something, she opened her eyes. Turning to the guys, Ling Huan asked what about the video they made yesterday. Mao Xing said that he found the phone and the video is still there. Scratching the back of his head, he asked why the phone was in his pocket, because he remembered that yesterday before he fainted he was holding it in his hand. Ling Huan shouted at him to stop talking nonsense and turn on the video. They watched a video of Fan Nin fighting a robot ghost. Mao Xing exclaimed that it seemed like he had saved them. Ling Huan said that it could only be him. Jan smiled widely and said that this time they have a really supernatural video. They will edit it and publish it on the internet, and this time it will definitely be a hit. Ling Huan thought that the videos he posted before were not made with special effects, so it was no wonder they were so realistic and exciting. She thought that he had always fought against the undead. She wondered for what purpose he was doing this. Ling Huan exclaimed that his wife might really be the ghost woman from the princess's grave. Crows fluttered from a tree not far from a residential building. Fanning slowly opened his eyes, waking up. As he stood up in bed, he thought that every time he woke up during the day, he felt an inexplicable sense of loss. His gaze dropped down to the bed. He glanced at Zhongli, who was sleeping peacefully next to him. The main character smiled and raised his hand to pat her on the head. Suddenly his phone rang. He calmly picked up the phone. Van shouted that his video had reached 90 million views. Fan Nin, clearing his ears, said that it was nothing special. Van told him that he was too modest. He asked if he knew that in terms of the number of views, this video had already reached the 10th place in the list of the highest views, and, besides, he was a newcomer, and his unprecedented popularity made the entire internet discuss him. The main character exclaimed about something, and Van asked him if something had happened. Zhongli hugged him close, and the blanket barely covered his body anymore. Fan Ning, blushing, said that everything was fine. He thought that he couldn't prevent it anyway. Looking at her face, he thought that when he earned money, he would definitely move to a big house. Rising from bed, the main character thought that if this was repeated every morning, he would not be able to resist. He sat down on the sofa and, exhaling, told Van to continue in the same spirit. Van said the platform only sent them an invitation to join. He said that the registration fee is 50,000 yuan, but the videos they post in the future will receive an influx of traffic, and there will be additional shares based on the number of views on the video. He said that he just did some calculations, and based on the number of views on their current video, they can get at least 90,000 yuan. The main character shouted to hurry and sign the contract. He thought that was more than he earned in a year moving bricks. Leaning back on the sofa, Fan Ning exhaled and thought that since he met Zhongli, he had made a lot of money in just a few days. Looking at his hand, he thought that, in addition to money, he learned about the soul, spiritual power, soul magic, all these supernatural things from a world he could never imagine. Looking at Zhongli through the door, the protagonist thought that all this happened because of her. He thought that even though she almost strangled him when they first met, looking at her sleeping face, he thought that she had now become an integral part of his life, and perhaps he should take the initiative to find these lost memories for her. The main character thought that no matter if she left him just to get her memory back, he would respect her choice. As he pulled her hair into a ponytail, he thought that she needed to find more soul power or fear power to regain her strength and lost memories, so the video should continue to be used to gain some lasting fear power through the video. He thought that the video recorded yesterday would be sent to Van and the others after some processing. Fan Ning, drowsily approaching the mirror, thought that regarding the power of the soul, you can search for urban legends on the internet, and there will probably be cases similar to the ghost child and Jiang Chan. He decided to wash his face first, and then check the information and make a plan. Noticing something, he opened his eyes in amazement. A thick red liquid that looked like blood came out of the sink faucet, and the main character exclaimed in amazement. Gritting his teeth, he asked why he couldn't turn off the tap. Noticing something else, he froze in place. Cold sweat ran down his face. Fan Nin looked up in fear at the mirror. In the reflection, he saw the rotting body of himself with empty eye sockets and a mouth without a lip, distorted in a disgusting smile. The reflection extended its hand towards the main character with eye sockets glowing green. The reflection looked at him intently. Fan Ning swung his fist shrouded in yellow aura and told the ghost to die. With a blow of his fist, he smashed the mirror in front of him into pieces. Shards of the mirror, shrouded in a green aura, swirled around him, and each one contained his disgusting reflection. Grabbing his head, the main character said that his head hurt a lot. Turning the doorknob, he thought that there was something in the bathroom and he needed to go to Zhongli. Swinging open the door, Fan Nin loudly called out to Zhongli. In front of him was an endless repetition of his bathroom, filled with shards of glass. His eyes widening in fear, he wondered how this was possible. Something quickly flashed in the corridor. It quickly bounced off the glass shards, leaving behind a green trail. Fan Nin ran forward, gritted his teeth, and asked if it had come to his house to cause trouble. He extended his hand towards the fleeing creature. The beast turned around, baring its sharp teeth. One of his eyes had fallen out of its sockets, and worms were visible all over his body. The main character, raising his fist, said that if he dared to attack him, he would die. He punched and the black substance flew into the air. A black substance began to cover his body, and he gritted his teeth and asked what it was. The monster said with a grin that he had been deceived. Fan Ning thought that he couldn't move his body, and his whole body felt like he was being pierced by needles. Enveloped in the black substance, Fan Nin let out a scream while emitting yellow energy. The yellow energy dissipated into the air. The protagonist's gaze went blank, and the monster told him that it was all over. Suddenly, a sharp blow separated his head from his body. Fan Ning suddenly opened his eyes. The body of the brown beast in front of him broke into two pieces and fell to the floor. The beast's head rolled across the floor. Zhongli called out to the main character, and he turned around. Covering herself with a white sheet, she worriedly exclaimed that he was okay. Fan Ning fell and she caught him in her arms. Rubbing his head, he asked what just happened. Zhongli said that he had just been attacked by a spirit body. A black collar floated in a water-filled shell. She said that luckily she caught it in time and fixed it. The main character, having turned off the water in the sink, asked about the body of the soul. Zhongli said that he is someone who is good at psychic attacks. He looked at the collar floating in the water and said that it did not look like a wild spirit. He asked why it attacked him. Zhongli said that she didn't know, and the situation was so critical now that she couldn't hold back. She said he couldn't let its power completely envelop him, otherwise, even if she was able to save him, it would cause permanent damage to his brain. Waving the sheet, she shouted that if he let her know who it was, she would definitely destroy them all, and she would not let anyone go who dared to harm her husband. On the collar it was written, H31. Fan Nin thought that it seemed like he was being attacked by some organization. He told Zhongli to go and get dressed while he cleaned up here. Zhongli puffed out her cheeks offendedly and turned around. While sweeping the floor, the protagonist thought that if Zhongli hadn't discovered this, he might have died here. As he threw the glass shards into the trash bin, he thought that after defeating the ghost child and Jiang Chan, he had become overconfident, thinking that he was some kind of Superman who could handle anything. Fan Nin thought that he was only thinking about becoming famous and making money, but he didn't know that danger was coming. And now that he thinks about it, it's a little funny. He thought that there seemed to be some kind of mutual restraint between the soul powers, and his 1,000-year-old dream could only be effective in head-on combat. But once he encountered illusions or mind-controlling souls, he would become useless. Wiping his forehead, the main character wondered who his enemy was and whether it was the people behind the ghost child, or the mastermind Jiang Chan. He thought that anything was possible, and now that the enemy was hiding in the dark, the attacks from behind would only become stronger and stronger, and he could not sit still and wait for death. Jiang Li said that she got dressed, and Fan Ning turned around. She was wearing his red sweater and said that the clothes smelled like him. The main character demanded that she take off his sweaters, to which Jiang Li replied that she did not want to do this. The business card fell out of his jacket pocket. Catching the business card in his hand, Fan Nin looked at it thoughtfully. The girl with wavy hair and red-rimmed glasses coughed up blood. The deep dolphin asked if she had found them. The girl, her face distorted with horror, said that her ghost had been destroyed. The deep dolphin asked if her squirrel Ying was not a 4th-level soul. He said that if he focused on mental attacks, ordinary level 5 soul hunters would be caught off guard and killed by his sneak attack. The girl said that she felt that she almost killed that hunter. She said that an extremely terrifying force suddenly appeared and killed the Ying squirrel instantly. Trembling, she raised her head and said that she really tried her best. She asked Chang Beidao, who looked down on her, to help her. Lifting her face with his hand, Chang Beidao said that he knew that she really tried her best. His face turned into a huge toothy maw, and he said that Jiang Chan, who was sent here as a formation observer, was eliminated, and an important experimental organ was taken away, and someone should be held responsible for such a heavy loss. He said that without the Ying squirrel, it is simply useless. Blood gushed out and he bit off the girl's head. The girl's headless body lay on the ground, and Chang Beidao, wiping her mouth with a handkerchief, said that she also knew that organizations never support useless people, so she couldn't blame him. The deep dolphin said that this was really strange, because Jiang Chan had been hiding well in this place for almost 10 years. He asked why the soul hunter suddenly attacked him, exclaiming that they had taken their important test subjects. He asked if their plan had become known. Chang Beidao said that this matter cannot be neglected and the organization must be notified as soon as possible to prepare for soul hunters sabotaging other aspects of the plan. He said that the identity of the soul hunter should also be carefully examined. After going through the red portal, Chang Beidao said that he would find him and he would pay with his life for their losses. There was a small cafe surrounded by trees in the daylight. Jiang, sitting at the table, looked at his notebook. The bell rang, announcing a new visitor. The main character entered the cafe and Jiang called out to him. Fan Ning sat down at the table opposite him. Placing the collar on the table, he asked him to tell him everything he knew about it. Jiang asked if he called him just to ask him to find out something for him. When he looked at the collar, his eyes widened and turned green. He thought it was an abyss. Fan Nin asked what an abyss was. Jiang asked him where he got it. Looking at the collar, the main character said that just last night an ugly squirrel-like spirit came out of the mirror in his bathroom and attacked him. But he managed to kill it. He said that after his body dissipated, this collar remained. Jiang asked him about the fact that he recently awakened his spiritual power, because there is no other way to explain the fact that he killed the squirrel, but does not know about the abyss. Nodding, Fan Ning said that he was right. Jiang said that in that case, he was truly lucky to survive their attack. He assumed that after awakening he probably realized that this world is not as simple as it seems. He said that there are ghosts, spirits and other creatures in this world and they are born with the ability to use the power of the soul, and they call them spirits. Jiang said that ordinary people usually cannot see them, but they can harm people. The power within the human body is spiritual power, but it is usually very weak and can hardly be expressed. But there are always a very small number of people who somehow contain a lot of spiritual power within themselves. Their enormous spiritual power allows them to create various strange abilities, and these people are called ability users. Most people with abilities at birth have different spiritual abilities, that is, they are awakened from birth. And people like Fan Nin, who wake up inexplicably, make up only 1/10 of all ability users. People and souls are divided into 8 levels depending on the size of the energy reserve. Humans are ability users from level 1 to 8, and souls will master a special kind of pressure after awakening level 6, and can suppress and control low-level souls, and this is a little different from human assessment. Soul levels consist of souls from levels 1 to 6 and 2 special levels, the Soul General and the Soul King. The main character said that, given the number of people in the world, there should be much more users of abilities. He asked why he had never heard of them. Jang said that the country did not want to cause panic among ordinary people and hostility towards people with abilities, and by using special soul skills, their memories were tampered with or deleted so that the world of ability users and monsters would be unknown to ordinary people. The state has already mastered the means and methods of testing all newborns, and all people with innate abilities will be marked and recorded by the government after birth. They will contact them when they turn 16 and invite them to join the official Soul Hunter organization. Fan Nin asked, what if they don't want to join? Jang said that they would seal their abilities, change their memories, and allow them to return to normal life. He said that for the children who agreed, after 3 to 5 years of training, they would be sent to various parts of the country to assist the government in dealing with some supernatural incidents. Most of these supernatural events are creatures of the soul, born from mental grievances, and of course there are also monsters with special abilities, often full of uncertainty and all sorts of dangers. Fan Ning said that, therefore, there are official soul hunters all over the country, and their number should not be too small. He asked why, despite several supernatural incidents he had encountered recently, he had not seen any soul hunters involved. Jang said that this was because, for some unknown reason, supernatural incidents had become more frequent in recent years, and during the purge, a large number of soul hunters had been killed or injured. He said that in addition, a major event that occurred 40 years ago caused a serious shortage of soul hunters. Frowning, he suggested talking about a group of people who were more dangerous than spirits and alien species. The main character asked, people. Jang said, that's right. He said that besides the people who awaken naturally as just mentioned, there are also 10% of people like him who awaken later, and unless they openly show their abilities, they will not be able to discover them. Looking at the skinny guy with a pot of plant in his hand, the guy with dark hair said that he was ugly. The girl said with a grin that he looked like a dog, and she urgently needed to look at the idols in order to wash her eyes with them. Jang said that they are hidden among ordinary people, and their abilities go far beyond ordinary people. By choice or for various reasons, they go astray. Initially, there were fewer of them and they have a complete monitoring network, and if there is a problem, they will detect it immediately. The skinny guy licked his lips with a sinister smile. Jang said that 40 years ago, the emergence of a mysterious organization changed everything, and from somewhere they found a large number of people with acquired abilities. They have also infiltrated the ranks of soul hunters, charming many hesitant hunters. Putting out his cigarette on an ashtray, Jang said that 40 years ago, the soul hunters experienced an internecine conflict that seriously undermined their strength. Frowning, he said that they were still setting traps for soul hunters and fighting the authorities. He said that they have been investigating them for many years, and unfortunately, until today, they have not been able to find out the purpose and location of their organization. To gain power, they commit all sorts of evil deeds at any cost, and cultivating souls in captivity is one of their methods. Fan Ning glanced at the collar with a frown. Jang said that he had already seen this collar and the number on it, and the one who attacked him was an abyss. The main character asked why they attacked him, because he is not a hunter of souls and he has no experience communicating with them. Jang said he doesn't know. He asked if he interfered with their plans. He said he believes retaliation is more likely. The main character thought that maybe they had a plan for Jiang Chan. He asked if there was a way to find them. Jang shook his head and said that if they knew where they were, they would have detained them long ago. He said that although they were catching a few people, they had soul magic cast on them, and once certain keywords were triggered, they would be completely destroyed from the inside and die on the spot. He asked if he still knew what soul magic was. Jang said that it is a power that comes from the depths of the soul, and the effects are strange and different for everyone. He said that among ability users, only a very small number of geniuses could master it. Fan Ning thought that he knew what soul skills were and was proficient in them. He wondered if this meant he was one of those rare geniuses he was talking about. Jang said that this is a soul skill that is difficult for humans to master, but it is a natural instinct for these soul bodies or alien species, and they can directly manifest the power of soul skills, and this is why being a soul hunter is very dangerous, because you can never predict which will be the soul skill of the next enemy. The main character, slamming his fists on the table, asked if he could only passively defend himself if he could not understand their soul skill. Jang said that he can recommend him to join the Soul Hunters, because by becoming a Soul Hunter, he will be protected by the organization. He said that the base of the organization of Soul Hunters is covered with protective barriers that are impossible to break through in principle. Fan Ning thought that he awakened thanks to Zhang Li, and he is different from the so-called later awakened. He thought that, moreover, if Zhang Li later regained his memory and decided to leave, she might also strip him of his current abilities and he would become an ordinary person again. He thought it wouldn't be easy to explain by then. Zhang said that it seems like he has some secrets that he doesn't want him to tell. The main character apologized and said that at the moment he could not join the Soul Hunters. He asked if he would erase his memory or use any means to control him. Zhang, closing his eyes, said that usually all those who awakens later should be controlled by the government, but he would trust it. He said he hoped he wasn't making a mistake. Putting the card on the table, he said that he remembered that the last time they saw each other, he was tracking down a ghost that was causing harm to people, and he saved a man. Fan Ning took a look at the card, and Zhang said that this card is a certificate for non-staff Soul Hunters, and this is a new policy used to replenish personnel after the Soul Hunter Civil War that happened 40 years ago. He said those who do not wish to take the aptitude seal can join as freelancers after passing the assessment. Taking a sip from his cup, he said that with this certificate, he would be able to use his abilities without threatening public order or causing panic among others. However, if he encountered dangerous spirits and supernatural events, he would also be required to help the local spirit hunters exercise there. Zhang said that he told him everything he knows, so he should be careful. Placing the book on the table, he said that the information he wanted to know should be summarized in this booklet. He told him to inform him if there were any new developments from his side. Rising from his seat, Fan Ning asked him who he was. Zhang stopped for a moment. As he left, he said that he was now an ordinary policeman. Sitting down on a chair, the main character wondered if he was retired. Looking at the book, he thought that it seemed that this time he had found the right officer, and now he knew who their enemy was. He looked at the card, which was shrouded in yellow energy. A hologram of his portrait appeared in front of him, and Fan Ning thought that it was quite advanced and it must be special for those with abilities. He thought that it must be the same as the beam of spiritual energy that he emitted before, and ordinary people cannot see it. As he put the card away in his pocket, he wondered if an ordinary policeman could know so much. The main character thought that he also told him about the Soul Hunters and gave him freelance status. He wondered who could believe that he was a simple policeman. The blonde-haired waitress said with a bright smile that he hadn't paid the bill. She asked him to pay 58 yuan. Fan Ning opened his mouth in shock. He said that he even drank a sip of water. The waitress said that his friend ordered it and he told her that he would talk to him about something important, and asked her not to disturb them. The main character irritably thought that this old man had deceived him, so he left in a hurry, pretending to be an expert. He walked down the street next to Zhang Li, thinking that the threat from the abyss was enormous, and he needed to restore Zhang Li's power as soon as possible. He asked her if she knew of any other ways to help her regain her strength besides eating delicious food and absorbing the power of fear. Fan Ning asked if there were any specific mechanisms or rules for gaining the power of fear. He thought that maybe there was a better way to tap into the power of fear than through videos and live broadcasts. Zhang Li said that through their voices or images, they can induce fear in them. And the stronger the mood swings, the more fear power they gain, and the faster her soul power can be restored. The main character thought about making a haunted house and letting Zhang Li scare the people inside. Shaking his head from side to side, he thought that opening a haunted house would cost tens or even millions of dollars. Moreover, they would need to do PR and so on, and it was not a guarantee that anyone would come. Someone behind them was running quickly down the street. The fat guy crashed into the main character and fell to the ground. The main character extended his hand to him and asked if he was okay. The man, calling him a benefactor, joyfully exclaimed that it was him. Fan Ning asked who he was. The man said that he was very happy to meet him again, and his name was Zhu Tianhua. He said that last week in the alley, if he hadn't shown up on time, he probably would have died there. Zhu Tianhua said that he still didn't know how to contact him. The main character introduced himself with an awkward smile and asked if he was feeling better. He asked if he was in a hurry to get somewhere. Zhu Tianhua exhaled heavily and said that it was a long story. He said that there was a good cafe nearby and he had something to tell him. He suggested we go there and talk. They ended up in the same cafe. Zhu Tianhua asked the main characters what they would like to drink. The main character, smiling, asked him to order the same thing he ordered. He thought it was again the coffee shop he had recently left. Zhu Tianhua asked for 3 cups of malt snow cold drink. The waitress obeyed with a smile. Fan Ning wondered if this was the same drink that Zhang drank. He thought that this seemed to be the most expensive coffee in this place. Zhu Tianhua said that last time he lost consciousness, and when he woke up in the hospital, the officer said that he had already left, and he didn't even have a chance to say thank you. Fan Ning waved his hand and asked what he wanted to tell him. Zhu Tianhua said that he actually came here to find the exorcism master and unexpectedly met him. He said that Fan Ning was an expert in this field, and perhaps he could give him some advice. The main character asked if he hadn't already helped him earlier. He asked if he had experienced other supernatural events. His eyes flashed yellow. Zhu Tianhua, shrouded in a thick red aura, said that this supernatural incident happened in his company. The main character asked him to describe a specific situation, and perhaps he could help him. Jumping up in his seats, Zhu Tianhua slammed his hands on the table and thanked him, scaring him and the waitress with the tray. Smiling awkwardly and scratching the back of his head, he apologized to her. The waitress put the cups on the table with a smile. Jiang Li looked at the cup in front of her in amazement and delight. Fan Ning whispered in her ear that it was okay to drink. She gently dipped her tongue into the liquid. Then she raised her head in admiration, and Zhu Tianhua thought, why does he feel that this girl is abnormal, and he didn't notice it before, but wearing a talisman on his head is quite strange. Jiang Li began to happily drink from her cup. Zhu Tianhua thought it was really cute, and being able to be with an expert like Fan Ning meant being a little special. Rubbing his head, he said that the morning after Fan Ning saved him, he woke up in the hospital and cooperated with the police to file a report, then rushed back to the company. Zhu Tianhua is the owner of a VR game company, and under the pressure of the recent industry downturn, they have invested all the company's capabilities into a new VR game. This VR game only needs the final testing phase, and his success or failure is tied to the survival of his entire company. He must be there. From that day all the deviations began. Zhu Tianhua told the guy with glasses that this is the first internal test after finishing the game, and it is very important. He said that they should clearly record the changes in his pulse during the game, so that later they could adjust the plot. The guy, looking at the tablet, announced the inclusion of shared screen and the beginning of the first stage of testing. They said that at the moment everything is fine and the character creation interface is normal. They said the game starts now. The game character of a guy with blue hair found himself in front of a green passage. Seeing something, he exclaimed in amazement. He asked why it looked so much like their office. In front of him was an office in which people worked, sitting at computers. The guy with glasses said that the game was modified because they didn't make an office scene like that. He asked what was going on. Red energy enveloped the office in the game. Zhu Tianhua grabbed the glasses guy by the collar and asked what was going on and where this scene was coming from. The guy at the computer said he needed to check the original code for the game. He asked if he should abort the test. Zhu Tianhua told him to wait because he wanted to see who was doing it. Turning around, he said that the shadow of their previous games could still be seen in the code, but most of them were modified, and the coding structure was too complex, which he needed time to figure out. He said to pay attention to the situation on the tester's side while he went to the surveillance room and took the CCTV footage. Zhu Tianhua said that when he first learned that the source code had been changed, he thought of checking the CCTV footage, but he did not expect an even more surprising discovery to occur. The main character asked what was found. They discovered that in an empty office, the computer turned on by itself, and the keyboard clicked on its own. Zhu Tianhua exclaimed in amazement as he looked at the recordings on the computer in front of him. Ghostly hands that he and the guard could not see pressed keys on the keyboard, and he asked how this was possible. Realizing the strangeness of what was happening, he decided to immediately cancel the test. However, upon returning to the office, Zhu Tianhua discovered an even more incredible scene. The guy, the VR headset on his head glowing red, screamed, shrouded in dark energy. Zhu Tianhua grabbed the glasses guy by the collar and asked furiously what was going on. He ordered the test to be stopped immediately. The guy, his eyes bulging and turning pale with horror, said that there was a ghost in this office. After releasing him, Zhu Tianhua ran towards the tester. With a sharp movement, he tore the VR headset off his head. Seeing his face, his eyes widened. The guy's eyes were bulging and rolled up, tears were coming out of them, and foam was coming out of his mouth. Zhu Tianhua shouted to call an ambulance. The guard agreed with a trembling voice. Zhu Tianhua gritted his teeth and said that because of this incident, many employees quit, and the development of this game also stopped. He said that if he continues to be haunted by ghosts, all his hard work over the past few years will be in vain. Slamming his fists on the table, he said that he did not want to sit still and wait for death, and to appease his employees, he asked them to first go on vacation, and then he spent a lot of money to call the famous master exorcist, Jai Zhan. Zhu Tianhua said that night he came with black donkey hooves, yellow rice, chicken blood and crosses to drive away the evil spirits, and he and the security chief followed him to watch him drive away the evil spirits. The main character said that this is not a zombie or a vampire, so the props are useless, and the master's nickname is too provocative. Zhu Tianhua scratched his head and said that, as expected from Fan Ning, his guess was indeed accurate. In the office, Master Zhaizhan formed a formation and assured them that there would be no problems. Zhaizhan gave a thumbs up with a smile and said that he had already turned him into ashes. Zhu Tianhua and the guard, trembling and clutching each other, told him to turn around. Behind Zhaizhan was a black silhouette that looked like a human, and he turned pale in fear. Zhaizhan and the others ran out into the corridor, screaming in panic. Fan Nin said that this is indeed a standard ending. Zhu Tianhua said that today he made an appointment with another master in this industry, but he did not expect to meet his benefactor, and it must be God's will. He said that he had seen his abilities and he would definitely be able to get rid of this ghost. He tearfully asked to be saved and said that if he continues to stay in his company will definitely go bankrupt. And if he goes bankrupt, then his wife will leave him and take their son, car and house. The main character stopped him. Smiling awkwardly, he told him not to cry because he would help him. Opening one eye slightly, he said that he was usually very busy, so it might not be easy to miss it. Zhu Tianhua nodded and said he understands. Handing over the golden bank card, he said that if Fan Ning could solve this problem for him, then he could consider this 50,000 yuan as a gift of gratitude. Fan Nin exclaimed in shock that it was 50,000. He wondered if exorcism was so beneficial, and if it could help Zhongli regain his strength, wouldn't it serve several purposes at once? Zhu Tianhua asked if he thought this money would not be enough. He said that he saved his life before and is his savior, and if he helps him solve this problem this time, it will be tantamount to saving his life again. Holding up 2 fingers, he said that he could give him another 20,000 yuan, but the company has been short of funds recently. He asked if he could give the money later when his game was launched. Fan Ning smiled widely and said that he was in no hurry, and they were destined to meet each other, so asking for money is too tasteless. Clearing his throat, he said since Zhu Tianhua is so concerned and sincere, he will do it tonight. He suggested adding each other's phone numbers so he could send him their company address. Putting his hand on his shoulder, the main character told him not to forget to send him the bank card password. Zhu Tianhua thanked him with a smile and said that they would meet tonight. A bright crescent moon shone in the night sky. Zhang Li and Fan Ning stood in front of a tall skyscraper. With his palm up, the main character said, "For these 50,000 yuan." Correcting himself, he said that in order to defend justice and drive out evil spirits, they must help. Zhang Li also raised her hand and said that they would get rid of them and eat something tasty. The main character, turning around, asked if she felt what was happening inside and what approximately the level of the soul was. Zhang Li said that it was like a 4th level soul, which was not much stronger than the previous ghost. Fan Ning slammed his fist into his palm and said, "Great, let's go." Behind him, Zhang Li held his phone in the air. The main character applied the pass to the intercom. Turning around, he said with a smile, "Start recording."